My mic's probably at a good distance considering my normal volume, right?
Yeah, we'll do a test. People will say if someone's too loud or too quiet. We're all on like the same levels, and we just wait for people to start showing up in here. And I'll get the second window open so we can see it. All right. So Tim's here. Sorry, we didn't announce that we were doing a podcast today. Even though I had it scheduled for almost a week and a half, I didn't front load that we're actually doing this tonight. Nick isn't here, so with us is Ben. You remember Ben from the Land Cruiser J200 review, as well as the Toyota Tacoma with 200. Tundra. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
All the first-gen guys will be angry with you.
Oh,
how dare you, sir? Not the baby taco.
They're like the same size. They're very close.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
And a recurring character and good friend of the show, Justin Burnash, is here from Prime Driven. Also Toyota. So this may be a Toyota-centered podcast because I finally am back on Team Toyota. Ben has owned a bunch of Land Cruisers, and Justin Burnash is known nationally and quite internationally as the guy who pioneered the Gen 4 swap into the, if I got to be cool, I can't say second gen MR2. I got to say the
letters and the numbers.
Oh, no. SW30.
Close, SW20.
Damn it.
The
ZZW30 is the third gen. Okay. Also, we'll do a quick mic check on us. I know I really eat the mic here, but those ones are more dynamic mics that can hear you from farther away. So, mic check on me, mic check on me.
Mic check on me, mic check on me.
Check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
Justin, you can, let me adjust your mic a little bit. These ones are more classical studio mics. And for people who like Jocko Willink and his podcast, the two upright mics here are the same ones him and Echo Charles use, in that they don't hear straight on, they hear vertically. So where we have the red tape is actually where it hears in front.
So now we're going to.
So if you want to move it, you can move it anywhere you want to.
Oh, that's good.
Because Justin naturally projects, and I naturally like to eat the mic. So, they say everything sounds good. So, okay. And I know this mic is naturally weaker. This is an SM57, the cheaper version of the SM58, which the SM58 is every stage mic you've ever seen on everywhere.
Yeah.
Is the people who want to drop mics, like mic drop.
Yeah.
The Shure SM58 is the one that can withstand like a 20-foot drop. It's made out of like machined aluminum, and it's like built like a tank. This one is the same internals of that, but with a much more affordable outer casing to say, okay, because people like the way the flatness of the SM58. Mm-hmm. I was like, I know it's a car podcast. I'm talking about microphones, but this
is the regular cars podcast, though. So it's not just
that's a regular.
This
mic.
is the SM57 is made to never leave the studio. So why do you need this tank of a mic sitting on here if it's never going to live in the real world?
I think I have the answer because I like to party.
No, that's I did like stage work in high school, and that's that dynamic, right, of like all of the like gaffers and sound and light people hate the actors, but the actors don't actually hate the gaffers and the sound and light people. It's this one-way thing where, so like I guarantee you, if you ask any of them, their answer would be like, because all of the actors drop this shit and just break everything. They just they would have this long diatribe for you about exactly why you need the better mic.
If we want to get nerdy, I could take this one off, because the mic you hear that I speak into for RCR is an SM58, and that one also just never leaves the studio. But that I got for free from an old roommate, and that thing, when you hold it, you're like, oh shit, this is like a snap-on ratchet thing. And the thing was beat to shit. Like the mic that you hear that I speak into has been through the ringer. It has chips in it. And I I sprayed it Mopar orange. So with like high temp paint to like make it look nice. And then I
high
wrote
temp paint because you're so hot right now.
Oh yeah, like the stuff you had to.
That Basil's so hot right now.
All right, so we already got some super chats in. Justin and I were talking at dinner, and I didn't know the Brick House is serving lobster rolls now. So
really,
yeah, I didn't.
Not just lobster rolls, incredible lobster rolls.
Oh, everything they make is good.
I know, I freaking love that place.
Yeah.
So,
fantastic.
We might do a giveaway here on the podcast of like some merch from the new website, since it's been like 2 weeks. You've seen the videos coming up. And by the way, it's regularcarreview.com, where everything has been condensed into one website. So merch is there. Sign up for the newsletter is there. Also, how do I submit a car? There's a big button that says, do you want your car reviewed by Mr. Regular? There it is. And one thing we have to do when we're done is actually film a new video to make it ungodly clear. This is the website. Click here to submit a car. Anyway. Yeah, that's the thing about fruitful. We're drinking fruitful.
You want to have Ben intro this?
Yeah.
I don't know much of the history, but yeah, this is Dogfish Head Fruitful Fort. It is basically a spin-off of another fort that they had already made prior, but I could not give a good history of it. You probably researched it more than I have lately.
It's
18%. So we're splitting.
The most
bottle.
important thing is there's 4 kinds of berries, and it's 18% alcohol in a beer.
Yeah,
that's not a stout.
Still lower than 120 minutes. When I was describing to you, that you can't even give an accurate ABV. They go, it's like 18 to 22. That's all that we really can tell you. Is it's going to be in that range.
It's kind of like the
Japanese.
Did we have
that before?
I don't think I brought one.
What was that? What was that elegant bottle that was?
That's shaped? Utopias. Okay, yeah, that's a crazy one. You probably heard of Sam Adams Utopias.
No,
it's the highest ABV you can make and still consider it a beer. It's I think like 28%.
Before they're like, it's just a cordial.
Yes. Well, that's what it tastes like. It really tastes more like yeah. It tastes almost like a port, like a sherry sort of. Yeah.
That was the last. I think was it just you and me on the podcast? Mm-hmm. I got fucked up.
Did you? You held it together. I had, and then you taught me. You tried to show me how to ski, and I still was like,
that sounds like me. I was
like,
drunk, and I'm like, I'm gonna tell you about my interests now.
No, I was into it because I was like, it's like golf too, where I'm like, this is working for other people. I don't quite get it, but like, let's see, maybe this is something I should look into.
Did you tell me about Top Golf once?
I don't think.
Oh, because I went and hung out with Tony Airlines yesterday, and we did go to a Top Golf, and I found that fun.
Yeah.
Because he has one over near Princeton, because of course there's a Top Golf near Princeton, New Jersey.
Right.
And there's like, it's like a video game, but it's also a driving range, and there's beer and there's food. And so it had like the old 90s spirit of everybody going to a bowling alley combined with golf, and you just pay by the hour. And I think I put a video up in like slow motion, like, how's my form? But my forward leg picks up, and it shouldn't be doing that. And people were complaining that I was hitting a 5-iron off a tee.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, but you can tee off with an iron if you want.
That's always what I used to use, because every time I use the driver, I would just slice it right into the woods.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need something that goes a little more, down the fairway.
Yeah.
I did put a lot of time into my swing, like 3 or 4 swings. And I was like, okay, I play golf now.
No, I think I went out once, and then like halfway through, I was like, the cart is really the part that I enjoy about this.
I'm going to go do a beer run with the cart. I'll be back.
I'll talk to you guys. Keep going.
So where are we? This is 90. 93, or do I need to?
So you can tell it's good because you got the debris in the bottom.
Yeah. And it has legs too. Yep. If you swish it, it does definitely have legs.
Oh yeah.
No, it's good stuff. I don't know what it is now. If you think about it, this was bottled in 2018 at 18%. It's maybe like 1920 now.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So we've got question from Imperator Zor. There's a familiar face. I don't think you have a question. Cars are machines. Machines are made by engineers. Engineers use metric. Well, yeah, I think all cars should be made according to the metric standard because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's just a number.
Yeah.
And also every single set should come with 2 sets of 10 millimeters.
Yes.
Yeah, the main one and the backup one.
Yes. Because you're losing one of them.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Preferably in the engine bay.
Yeah. I bet you Amazon sells them just 10 millimeters.
Like a strip of 10 mils.
Dude, that's a merch idea. Just 10 millimeter sockets.
No, they sell like DeWalt sells like number 2 Phillips, which is like the most common like of the Phillips bits. That's the most common, and that's the one that you always lose if you do like carpentry work. That's when you lose. They sell a pack of just number 2. Here you go. This is all the ones that you wanted.
Like gourmet 10 millimeter sockets. Like somehow make them like. Well, you can get them in anodized aluminum because Harbor Freight sells aluminum socket heads.
Yep.
And why would you want it? I mean, light work or something, or is it like a weird mix of like nickel and zinc or something like that? But I see them, the sets up there, they're like pink and purple. Yeah. They're like $10.
One of my guys used to have a set of them because nobody else had them, so his sockets could never get mixed up with any other mechanic sockets.
So, were they really aluminum, or were they just like?
Yeah, they're anodized aluminum.
Oh, okay.
But the problem with anodized aluminum is inherently kind of soft.
That's what
I
would think
but
they
like,
would just bend them.
If you're not doing high torque stuff, it works.
Yeah.
Like just like lug nuts. Like if you have a road car, like you can use aluminum lug nuts, and like they'll be fine. But if you go on a racetrack, they'll literally weld themselves to the steel studs.
Whoa!
Ask me how I know.
It's like stainless steel screws.
Okay, here's a question for Justin, and I think this is something you've answered at least twice before in this podcast. Boris asks, "What is the difference between the 3S GE and the 3?" No, this is different. It's not 3S. What is the difference between the 3S GE and the 3S FE?
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh, is this a joke that I don't know?
No, this is real. This is a real question. We're mixing 2 markets of sale here. So the 3S FE is a domestic market engine that was sold in the RAV4s.
Okay.
Now, the FE was always effectively like the fuel economy version. So like the MR2 and the Camry and the Celica had the 5S FE.
Okay.
That was 2.2. The 3S FE was a 2-liter, normally aspirated. But F meant that it was the economy rubbish version versus the 3S GE. That's the G series of the motor, which was the more high revving, hotter version. And then you had the GTE was the turbocharged version of that motor, except it wasn't actually a turbocharged version of that motor. It was an entirely different motor. But the block structure, the infrastructure of it was the same. So yeah, 3S GE came in a Japanese domestic market, Celica, MR2, probably some other stuff over there. But in America is the only place you would have the 3S FE. And that was in the RAV. And it's a completely useless engine.
Is it?
The 3S GE is like moderately useless. It's obviously better with a turbo because everything is. But it was the RAV when we did the first gen RAV, when we Gen 4 3S GTE swapped it.
Yeah. I remember that video. It spun all four wheels.
Yeah, I did the 4-wheel burnout. And then I blew something up after that.
Transmission, probably.
Transmission related. Because we were using the 3S FE trans on it. Needless to say, the transit was rated for 100 foot-pounds of torque. Wasn't so good with 300 foot-pounds. But yeah, the FE is a completely worthless piece of garbage engine.
But you have to admire Toyota for
it will run forever still.
The optimism of the FE for fuel efficiency.
Yeah.
Because the 2-year ZFE in my 100 series Land Cruiser was also FE, and it was like 12. Like on a good day, you're like, 12, 13 MPG on this highway trip. Awesome.
Yeah. You guys are adorable.
Yeah.
Really. It just meant not sporty.
Right.
More than it actually meant anything to do with that. But it was supposed to be fuel economy. Yeah. It was supposed to, but 90s fuel injection. I mean,
yeah, that's what we aspired to. Yeah.
Were they CAN bus wasn't when did CAN bus really start?
OBD2 was 96. CAN bus didn't come into, I don't even know if Japanese cars even now are CAN bus. The German cars were CAN bus early on, like probably in the late 90s.
Okay.
But US Toyota Japanese domestic was 96. We got OBD2, and for all through the Japanese Mark II, the SW20, and the ZZW30, those are all just straight up OBD2.
Okay.
So I don't know when the Japanese domestic got CAN bus, but the Germans have had it forever because they're German.
Did fuel injectors shut off under like idle or deceleration with manual? Did that start with CAN bus, or is that something completely different?
There was none of the MR2 motors and any of the domestic Japanese motors let's say 2010 is probably where my expertise ends on this, had anything where the injectors actually turned off.
Yeah.
Like the modern stop-start stuff, the Germans were doing that, for a long time.
I see.
Everything American really in the last 5 years has that capability as well.
This
cylinder deactivation and all that stuff. But you're talking pre that.
Yeah. This is a conversation I was having with Matt Happel he was talking about fuel economy and how he was saying like he was listing in one of his knowledge bombs, the optimal LS engines to get is the ones that will shut off and like the wiring harness and computer combo is the ones that will shut off the fuel injectors if under deceleration. And if you're like descending a hill for a long time, it'll detect that and shut off the fuel injectors and it'll just pump air, but does not have cylinder deactivation because that's stupid and that's extra things to break.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I was just throwing that out to see if there was an accurate time.
You're right, because the LS motors did have stuff like that in the early 2000s, which was strangely forward thinking.
Yeah.
For
a push
but
rod.
The LS was, despite being a push rod, obviously there's no arguing with the ultimate, results that you could achieve, as we were talking about earlier at dinner, and the
he had a 4.8 with 800 horsepower with a blower and spray on it.
Unopened.
Unopened. Yeah, it's about like 290,000 miles on this thing. He didn't change the head. The heads never came off. It was just it was just a cam, valve springs, probably larger throttle body, if that. The truck intake, or at that time, no, he was running an aftermarket intake because someone gave it to him.
What's this in?
This was in a 2000, and we're going to review this car, but when we reviewed it, the blower was off.
Okay.
He converted back to NA and was only making like 350. This is a 2006 Infiniti G35.
Nice.
With an LS in it.
So you can actually drive it on the road now.
Yeah.
Versus that 900 horsepower.
He was claiming it was better with 800 horsepower. Or say 800 was spray. I think it was 650 without the spray. He was spraying it a lot.
Just boost on pump gas.
Yeah.
Really?
Boost.
But 93. Big old turbo. That's like a turbo the size of my huge head. And just slap that on there. Throw some fuel at it.
I don't know what he was using with the 6-liter when he hit 1038 wheel.
Dyno?
On his dyno,
wow.
Yes. And that was in Colorado.
Wow.
Oof. That's brutal. It would be making substantially more than that down here.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And that, he blew up the engine like 3 times. There.
Everybody I know that has a supercharger without fail is like, love it. It's amazing. I'm like, really? I'm interested. Like, well, this is the third engine. Or, like nobody is ever like, this is the original. This is what it came with. No, it doesn't happen.
No, and certainly when they're aftermarket, because the factory stuff typically isn't going to be able to do a lot more than the factory put it out at. Like even where you have like the AMG, the 55s. Where you had 493 horsepower from the factory and it was only running like 8 pounds of boost. But like that twin screw supercharger is only good to like 12 and then it's out of puff.
Right.
You got to slap on like a big old like Barabbas one to get like 1,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
and then what do you into it for? Yeah.
Well, and the turbo and supercharger game, is very similar. The issue with the supercharger game is most of the time you don't have intercoolers because if you're at low pressure, you don't need them. But so people take a car that came with a low pressure supercharger that didn't need it, put a huge one on, and then they blow up the engine because it doesn't have any cooling.
Just can't keep up.
Like the Demon, the Demon has technically intercooled through the air conditioning system.
Yeah.
Which is a great use of an American air conditioning system. If I ever seen one.
Roll the windows down, buddy. If you're going for it.
Ooh, this is running too hot. Just pump the AC into it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Great question. Judd Kramer says, any more vaporwave for the Mr. Regular channel? Oh, that's right. There's a third channel that was just me doing vaporwave stuff for just for the love of the sound. Yes, but it'll probably end up on regular enrollment with something with that, probably involving the Sarah, because that is an accurate vaporwave car.
Yeah.
Speaking of engines, looking into the Sarah's engine, it is the 5E FE that we got in the Tercel and Paseo, but when I looked at the stamp, it says 5E HE. Wait, 5E FHE.
There's another letter in there.
Yeah. And there's differences
somewhere.
This engine, the engine, we never even looked. Well, it's just the 5E engine was kind of like a nothing engine. It's like, I almost kind of, to me, it feels a little bit like the Honda D series, but with double cams instead of a single cam.
That whole car drives, and in the inside feels and looks like a 90s Honda. Like I was saying, you know how the 90s Hondas, the dash was so far away from you, even though they were tiny.
Yeah.
And it was like really low down. You could like low hood, you could see everything. Very buzzy. Like, that car feels from the inside and from the sound very much like a D series, which is odd because Toyotas don't really feel like that.
No.
Like that's what there's a unique thing about that motor. Like a 5S FE, there's no buzzing there.
Mm.
Complaining, whining, no buzzing.
Yeah, it's going to tell you.
Okay, so there are two variations of the 5E engine. The 5E is a 1.5-liter double-cam 16-valve version of the 5E. Output ranges the 93 horsepower at 5,400 RPM. Right, these are two different things. Output ranges from 93 to 108 horsepower with 91 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM low. Oh, wait. It's giving me two numbers and two different things. Okay. So originally it was had a distributor, which the Sarah does. And later on, it was converted to coil pack in a waste spark configuration, like a Neon or a Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember because when we did the Tercel, it had sparks, but it only had two coil packs, and they were just sort of on top of
that was their style.
We'll put them here with like a J, like an L bracket on one of the acorn nuts, like holding the that on top of the valve cover. Like,
yeah, that's close.
Yeah. Double platinum plugs are used to prevent electrode wear, something. And in 1997, a returnless fuel system was added. Now the 5E FHE maximum power was increased to also 100. Increased to, okay, it could be from 108 horsepower to 130 through a ACIS intake. Maximum engine speed was increased to 7,200 RPM in the first version and 7,900 for the second generation. It uses a harmonic dampener for the 4E FTE. I don't know why they're talking about that. Some versions, not the Sarah, have the ACS intake, high compression pistons. So mine does not have that. So I do have a 5EF. I have the higher tier engine, but with the standard intake.
Yeah, because your red line
is 7,002.
I thought it looked more like 7.4 because an MR2 is 7.2 and it's like just one notch past 7. Yours was like a whole red section past 7. I was like, whoa, whoa, we're getting a little aspirational here, Toyota. Let's calm it down.
So maybe I should go to the dyno tomorrow, and because Burnash
run it out.
Burnash wanted it, but I'm so protective of that car because it's so clean, and then the head gasket
it's way too clean.
Yeah,
and I want to put it because
the interior trim still has like the plastic that goes down to the center console from the gauge cluster still has like a almost satiny texture that should have decades ago been wiped totally gloss clean, and just be shiny black.
Right.
But it's not. It's like an affront to time.
Yeah.
It's a Time Lord.
The dash isn't cracked. Because I saw on Sarah's that the Sarah's, because of all the glass, suffered from the same problem that 240s had.
It's big.
Yeah.
And really all the 80s cars.
Yeah.
944s,
well, but it was
2s.
in Japan its whole life, I guess.
Yeah, it must have been like in a garage or something.
But then why repaint it?
Why was it repainted? That's just a
Well,
weird thing.
That's the weird thing about Japan. They do things when they're not necessary a lot of times. For example,
My head gasket being changed at 34,000 miles.
timing components. They do things on really more often on time than on mileage.
Yeah.
For example, the 3S GTE is a non-interference engine. You snap the timing belt, it just turns off. Nothing happens. You can't throw anything into anything. The service interval listed by Toyota in the manual is 60,000 because that's what responsible people change timing belts at. In Honda, if you don't do that, it explodes.
Right.
In a Toyota, nothing happens. And in fact, I've had cars over 200,000 miles on completely original timing components.
Yeah.
But in Japan, when you get an imported motor that has 45,000 miles on it, there's a sticker, and you can clearly see all the little marks on the screws and the dates on the belt and the water pump. The timing components have been changed.
Because that was the rule. That was when they said to do it.
But it was like, but they even did it before you were supposed to do it.
How German.
And they just put the car in the junkyard.
Right.
What's happening? That's the Japanese.
Yeah.
That's why we have these cars that are still running.
Yeah.
But
The
it's
Americans, no.
It's that so that 100 series Land Cruiser I had
Oh, God,
it's
yeah.
an interference engine, right?
Yes.
That 2UZ FE.
But
And
an endless.
it had 256,000 miles on it. I ended up trading it. And before I was going back and forth, like, do I trade it? Do I try out the 200? Do I keep it? And I was like, well, timing belt I should do. And I'm like, I wonder. So I checked. It was done at like 132,000 or something. So I'm like, okay, so it's time, right? So I start researching, like, I'm going to find examples. The 2UZ FE is interference. Show me some examples of people that have actually had the timing belt fail and have destroyed the timing of the engine.
Yeah, no.
Couldn't find one.
No.
Like, one guy was like 314,000 miles on the original timing belt. He's like, seems to be working fine.
Yeah.
Just
Let it ride.
try it out.
Put it all in red. But
What are you
yeah,
gonna do?
it's a 90s to early 2000s Toyota. You know, they invented the word indestructible.
Yeah.
And then they finally figured out that was a horrible business model.
Right.
And in the mid 2000s, they were like, all right, we'll make things that you have to service every now and then.
Let's get a little crazy with the gas pedal here. See what happens. Yeah.
What if we actually made power?
No, and then they tried that. And now they're backing away.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that was too much. It was too risky.
Someone posted on either Reddit or Jalopnik about this interview, like why they went to BMW. And there was, some translated interview from somebody at Toyota.
Story. Go on.
Yeah.
Or
People like our cars after they've been, like, our cars do great on the second market, but no one likes them when they're new.
Yeah.
We dump all this money into creating these high performance cars, and they just lose money. And then everybody on the used market makes money when suddenly they become popular a decade and a half later.
Yeah. It's true, though. Well, I've said that. I mean, the C8 Corvette, I have a C7, and I'm like, I would buy a mid-engine Corvette if you would make one. I'll buy it new. And then GM did, and they were like, oh, it's not going to have a stick shift. And I was like, yeah, I'm not buying that. Like, I'm out.
And also, it's 60K. Oh, but by the way, you can't buy one for less than 120.
Right.
When we said 60K, we meant we're liars.
Yeah. Part of that is COVID. In their defense, part of that is COVID.
But also, just like when the Hellcat came out, when Demon came out, like, they just sold them for too little. Everyone bought them or had already ordered them, and they were like, crap, everybody wants this. I'm just gonna turn around and sell it for double the money.
This is America. I'm a dealership. I'm gonna charge you an extra $30,000.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the Japanese tried that with the Blaubai STIs and the Evo 8s. When they came over, they were so hot, and we had never had them in 03 and 04 respectively, and they were charging $10,000 over sticker. So what was already a $40,000 sticker, Japanese sedan with a 2-liter to 2.5 liter, they were charging $10,000 over, and they were getting it all day because they weren't bringing over very many of them, especially with the Evos. They brought over almost none,
right?
And then 2 years later, basically all the really irresponsible Japanese car lovers bought them already,
right?
And they were like, "All right, we can't sell this kind of money. You could buy a 3-year-old Porsche 911 for that, or a brand new, a 2-year-old M3,
But all of them, the Civic Type R,
but now they're the same money.
All of them, they're like at the start, it's like, oh man, everybody's gonna, and it was like 6 months, and everybody's like, yeah,
I didn't get that at all. I'm like $64,000, for a Jeep with a useless bed? Huh?
Tiny little bed.
But
that's also Chrysler too. And
then they screwed up the launch too.
Oh yeah.
It was like this big limited launch, and then
edition,
a whole bunch of it didn't work.
Well, they were like 2 months late, and it
Yeah.
didn't work. They were like, "It's gonna be out. It's not gonna be out yet. It'll be out."
It was kind of like when Obama did like the healthcare.gov or something.
Yeah.
They finally put it out, and then it just crashed immediately.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm gonna go.
All right.
Anybody want water?
I'm gonna go. Do you want to try the new stout?
Yeah,
Flying Fish.
I'll try.
I've never seen one, but I hear that
Yeah.
they got some distance.
I'm in.
Oh, cool.
Brian, you want some water?
Oh, yes, please. You know, I got to take it easy. Bunch of chats coming in. So yes, Lo-Fi Camping Guy says, and thank you for your donation. Probably been asked this before, but if you were able to review cars in Japan, what would be your top picks? Okay. First pick, and Justin can hear me from the other room. The car.
Can you hear me?
What's that?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. The question is, when you go to Japan, what kind of cars would RCR review? And the number one on my list, in keeping with the theme of tonight, is a car that I'm going to be in my late 40s until it becomes legal here in the US, is of course the Toyota Caldina. When Toyota said, let's just make an Impreza hatch.
Yeah.
And they did. And it's, you've seen that engine in some of Justin's creations where you can have an MR2 with 300 horsepower at the wheels out of the Gen 4 3S GTE engine. Jalopnik ran a story that like it's coming, the Caldina is coming. And looking at it, it just looks like your average early 2000 sedan with those like the roundy, blobby HVAC controls and sort of like, we'll theme the center console into this, which is weird. It's very Mazda. It's like a triangle. Everything comes together with like these ugly, like Microsoft Zune panels coming down. And because it's still just like a single or a doubled in setup. There's nothing changed. They just arranged it in a strange way. Like that the blobby Ford Taurus.
I was just going to say, the late 90s, weird. Why is it a circle?
Everything's a circle. You can't change the radio. So that's the number one is a Caldina. I guess I'd have to do a R34 Skyline, although we're, I think, 1 or 2 years away, Justin.
The R34 was 98, except they're already $200,000 and they're not even legal yet.
God damn.
The Caldina is legal in 3 years though.
Hell yes.
And the Caldinas will not go for big money because they have no brand recognition. Yeah, the R34s are $200,000 right now, illegal. You have to store them in Japan. And then when they come over here, they'll be $250,000.
God damn.
You thought Supra was overpriced.
All that for an RB engine.
It's the same motor in the R32.
Is it?
Yeah, and like a couple like little baby tweaks. Got a 6-speed instead of a 5-speed. It's obviously got the super fancy electric yaw control and all that stuff that means nothing in the real world.
Do they have 2 drive shafts, one running back and one running forward? Am I thinking of the GTR?
Yes. No, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did the one we do had the 2 drive shafts? Or was that something else?
The GTR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's got the GTR's all-wheel drive. It's so Japanese in execution. It's just a rear-wheel drive car, and they just made another linkage to go to the front. And we'll put a transmission there too. So we don't have to like reinvent the wheel here. I don't know. Not like Toyota where they have the transfer case attached to the transaxle.
Yeah.
Front wheel drive derived, drivetrain, and that whole, transmission and axle, which on all the GT4s, like the Celicas and all that stuff, the All-Tracks, that's a 250-pound lump to get out. Really? So what you do is you drop it down out of the car, you basically lean it over on the side so the timing cover is down and the trans and the transfer case are up, and then you hook up the cherry picker to them and you pull them off. Unless you have 4 burly men.
Nice.
Who don't mind their toes being broken if they drop it.
Because
it's so ungainly. There's no good places to hold on.
And it's not one of these things where you can lift the car off of it. There's the suspension in the way.
Yeah, no, I mean you could do that and just leave it on a dolly.
Yeah,
but you still then have to get the trans and the transfer case off the motor because obviously it's all attached. You're not pulling that off with the motor in the car.
Oh, okay.
I forget about that.
Okay.
This is not a Mustang. Toyota plays for keeps when it comes to transaxles and transfer cases. What do you think?
I like it.
I never had it before. It was the only stout that was there.
Really?
Yeah, we're completely out of season now. Once we leave March, I got nothing to drink.
Yeah.
So I'll just have to make compromises. How many cases of that flying?
Oh, we've got more.
Of the fruitastic do we have?
There's more.
What's the
It's
spirits?
supposed to be coconut and cinnamon. Yeah, I get a little bit of that.
Once I finish this water, I will join you. What is the spiritual successor to the Honda Beat? The Honda N200 or something like that? Because that's another one I wanted to drive because they're in Japan right now. And I think New Zealand can import them.
Yeah, was that the kind of like no, they did an S. I'm thinking of the Baby S2000. They did an S1000 in Japan.
Really?
The 1 liter. Because
people in the chat are probably shouting it right now.
Was that just like a turn down? Was it?
I mean, that was like a completely like a bespoke
S660.
Really?
That's what
That's
it is.
what it was.
S660.
Everybody's
Yes.
like,
It is a
Oh
K
yeah,
car.
but the S660 is an ancient car. That's not
Really?
that they have S660 in the 90s.
No, this is a current model.
They have an S660 now.
No, we have
Because
to figure
the
this out.
original, that was one of the early tiny Hondas. It was a 660cc, back in the day when you could have that in a car.
S660. Doink.
When did they first come out? What's Wikipedia have to say about that? Yeah, that's clearly a modern iteration.
Honda S660. Wikipedia. 2015 present. So what was the original
So
one?
maybe it
then?
was the S600?
Does it show you like a predecessor? Related Honda, Inbox, N1, N-Wagon.
Dude, they made a car
was
called
that-
the N box.
The S600.
Oh!
What happened to that Nissan Cube?
It's so close.
Right?
It's so close.
Is that a sliding rear door? It is. There are the tracks.
Oh yeah.
That is a K car with a sliding rear door.
Wow.
Hell
But that's
yes.
this is what I don't understand. Why do these, like Toyota especially, they're such a conservative Japanese company, but in their homeland they're like, yeah, we're gonna make that weird crazy thing. Yeah, we're gonna do this.
We were talking about that earlier. I think it's because Toyota knows that you can't keep all these engineers bottled up with all of these Corollas and Camrys all day without someone shooting somebody.
But they're so disciplined about everything else.
Right. But so every now and then they come to the meeting and they're like, boss, we just did the 13 millionth Corolla. I know we're making a lot of money. Okay. I'm not even asking for a raise. Can I just make something completely and utterly pointless?
Right.
Done.
Fine.
How much is it going to cost? I don't know, 100 million. Done.
All right, fine.
We just burned that now.
But then, like,
and now.
this is what's weird about that is we're a bigger market for Toyota than Japan.
Oh, yeah.
So why not bring some of them over, guys?
Yeah.
Well, because if you're going to bring it here, you'd have to bring over some significant volume.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Japan, the rest of the world doesn't really know or care what you're doing there.
Right.
Like
they don't have a dealer network that can sell direct in their stores.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, throw out like the Sarahs. They made fewer Sarahs and they made SW20 MR2s.
Really?
Yeah.
Production numbers of the Sarah was like 15. It was like 15,921. So just under 16,000 Sarahs exist.
They imported 23,000 SW20s between 91 and 95. But in Japan, they made them all the way until 99. They probably made 100,000 of them. But only 15,000 Paseos with cool doors.
But that's what I don't. And it's the correlation, right? And I'm not
because it
trying
didn't cost them a lot to make 15,000.
I'm not trying to diss American car makers, right? Like they had their kicks.
You can do it.
They had their kicks, and they kind of started to figure. But I remember I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car in the mid 2000s. It was a good company. It was a cool. But I remember getting Jeep Commanders. Remember the Commander? It was an 8-seater.
Yeah.
It had no rear visibility. Literally, when the
no
third row was
headroom in the back either.
No headroom in the back. And I remember seeing those. You remember those pictures of them in Michigan? They were renting the entire parking lot of defunct malls to park these in because they had crazy overshot forecasts. Like 2007, 2008, they were like, we have these like crazy numbers. It's going to sell. And it just didn't.
Nope.
And I remember I remember the guy who was mad because he was a Chrysler dealer and I was going to pick it up for Enterprise. And he's like, he's like, yeah, you guys have fun just taking your 15 that are coming in on this truck, because his dealership was like the hub for the area. So like when the truck came from the factory, it stopped here. All of them got unloaded, and then like other smaller dealers came to pick him up from his lot. And he showed me he was a pretty good volume dealer, and his invoice was like whatever, like $32,000 for a $47,000 vehicle, and Enterprise was paying like $21,000 for this $47,000 vehicle.
How?
Because they buy by volume. They're the biggest buyer of new vehicles in the country.
Enterprises.
Yeah, because they're a huge rental fleet, right? They all of the rental reimbursements for like insurance, like you wreck your car, that's almost all Enterprise. And they have these negotiated rates, but they are, unless it's changed, they were the biggest volume buyer of new vehicles in the country. So they get these crazy negotiated prices. So they were paying literally like well under half sticker for the same vehicle that this dude as a Chrysler dealer was paying like 10 grand more for.
Wow.
I remember him just being like, yeah, you guys, you go take off with your 15. But that was the same era where I remember buying, or not buying, but getting a brand new F-150 from the transport truck. It came off at this airport, and I got in. I was the first person other than the people at the factory to drive this thing. And I drove it from the airport back to the branch, and I put it in park, and the shift indicator and the console just fell in.
Oh,
and I was like, wow, dude, we got to get this fixed. It was like 07. Like,
oh, not even like the 90s one.
No, this was like right before they had the come to Jesus moment, right before the financial collapse, and they were like, oh, we need money. And Ford was like, I don't actually need money, but everybody else,
they're the only ones to do it on their own.
Yeah, they made it out.
It made me respect them a little bit more.
I did.
And then they were like, oh, we need to come up with some interesting cars. We'll just take the ones from Ford Europe.
Right? Yeah.
And then we'll just call them new models. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Ford Focus ST. Oh, that's exciting. It's brand new, never seen before. It's been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
What do we call this tiny one that's really ugly but tall? Eco Sport? We've been calling everything else Eco. Eco Sport?
I think Eco.
Yeah.
We can't call it an I something. Apple owns that.
Size-wise, it's close.
Put in your pocket.
Yeah.
Luke Cook Griffin says, beer money, and thank you for beer money. I've got the year 2000 BMW M5. I'm doing all the window actuators.
E39.
I love it.
You looking to sell that, old man?
Dude, I'll swap in the radio from an 01 to 03, and that's mine. I want that. Remember the little one was half size. No, the radio, the 90, what was it? 98, 99, they didn't make an M5. 2000, they did, and it had a smaller nav system.
Right,
and then in 01, they went to a wider nav. I love those cars. But now they're like, have you seen they're like $45,000?
Yeah. I remember when you could buy like a nice one for 20, and I was like, ooh, just a little bit too much.
Yeah. Now
what's nostalgia? And then you turn around and you're like, what? Now the junk ones are 20?
Yeah. Come on. 240,000 miles. I'd like 20 grand, please.
I have full service records. Really? No, I was lying.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure I memorized them from the guy that told me that I bought it from who was obviously telling the truth.
It had oil changes.
It had oil changes. Definitely some oil changes.
Swear to you.
Every 3,000? At some point in the thousands. Yes, there were thousands of oil changes. Yeah, no. I mean, literally just since in the last 12 months, after the Veed first launched, right before then, you could name a cool Japanese car. Let's just say an Evo, for example. Right? Like they've always held their value more. They didn't bring a lot of them in. You could buy a nice one in the low 20s. That same car now is in the low 30s. R32 Skyline Gtr, the car you drove.
Yeah.
We bought that. That was 2 years ago. We bought that for 22 grand. It was just very, very nice. Bone stock. Did a few things to it, right? So it was like 25 into it. That same car right now that was 22 grand is $40,000.
Unbelievable.
Now at 22 grand, that's a fun car.
Yeah.
It's a cool car. At 40 grand, I can buy a 997 Carrera.
Yeah.
Not anymore, though.
No, they're the junky ones. Yes, because
a
year ago, you could buy the nice 997s in the high 30s.
Yeah.
Even down in the low 30s for some of them. Now that same car, everything basically is up 25 to 50% from what it was a year ago.
Was that what we were talking about, like the semiconductor shortage?
Yeah. No. So this is what's fascinating to me, right? It's like this confluence. So, and again, I'm no expert, but what I see and what I've read is basically.
They don't know. Just tell them you're an expert.
I know this. No, it
Let me
was.
tell you, people.
So it was right at the start of COVID. All of these factories shut down. Right, the people trying to react didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
So what happened was the new car market basically shrunk, and then when the new car market shrunk, the trade-in market shrunk, so the used market shrunk. Right, so now you have basically less new cars, less used cars, all of that together. And then flash forward, you have coupled with that, all these people are leaving cities because of COVID, and all of these people are avoiding public transit who are still living in cities. They all want cars now. So there's like all of this together, and now the semiconductor issue that I still don't even really understand exactly how are you all buying this from the same place? Can't you find some other places to buy it from? But it's how it is.
That is the freaky thing of that manufacturing, like that's at that scale.
Yeah.
It's like it's basically normally it's 2 or 3 guys that effectively make the world supply of like name 100 worldwide products. And like semiconductors, I mean, like for the car industry, right? Like in Japan, Nippon Denso is effectively the OEM manufacturer for every Japanese car, every accessory, every like it's all Nippon Denso. It may say something different when you get it, or when you go to buy the replacement, but it's all them. And it's like, how do you own everything, the whole market? Like, how is there no like? Was the competition just too late to the party, and they were like, the capital outlay and the infrastructure was just, no, I'm out, man, I'm tapping.
But a part of it is, I mean, I think it's macroeconomics, right? I mean, some of that comes into play, but
when you're at that kind of scale and you're working on these kinds of margins,
right? Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, that's what's so interesting about the technology industry, and also the interconnected. Like, at work, I have 2 separate, entirely unrelated projects, both waiting because the same supplier in Texas makes the polyiso foam that is the insulation and shut down when that hurricane thing happened. When they didn't have power for like 2 months. That same one company is like, yeah, sorry, we're going to be a couple months behind. And so like these random, like unrelated, they're like, hey, listen, the dock doors are going to be late. Also, your keg cooler is going to be delayed. Like, what? How do these don't go together?
Wait, what?
But it's one company with foam.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I know early on, like, when everything kind of first hit and everything really shut down, like I get for like 3 to 6 months, like, okay, the new car prices went up because you couldn't get them because there were almost none coming in. Like I knew I have a buddy who he was trying to buy a used Tacoma or Taco for our Toyota enthusiasts.
Yeah. So for the same price as a new one.
For the same price as a brand new one,
obviously.
Yeah. So obviously you just got the new one. You get better financing anyway.
Yeah.
But like he's like, yeah, like they literally they're already bought before they even get loaded off the truck.
Yeah.
And they can charge that much for the used ones because you can't buy the new ones because those are all already pre-ordered.
Yeah. my neighbor just made a deal on a truck that will be here in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made a deal on a truck that in a month is actually going to physically be in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And that was like real-time shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was insane. But I just remember like looking at all the cars and I'm like we can't, like, how are we going to give away like GTRs when they doubled in price? We certainly didn't double in revenue.
No.
And certainly not in customers or orders. Like, so we just can't, like, we can't afford them anymore. And like, it's a cool car. And for 2025, it's a heck of a car.
Yeah.
If you're into Japanese, turbo cars from the 90s, but at 40,
right.
You should just now start giving away just the biggest bombs. Give that away instead. Like, here's my 1986 Mazda 626. Rusted out, but it's free. That's the market.
I'd be open to that for RCR. Like, we just hang out, like buy some of the stuff that Justin Kramer posts on there. Like, yeah, this is a 1978 Opel. Because he has one in his pole building.
Really?
When GM was selling Opels briefly after the gas crunch.
Yep, for a very brief period.
Yeah, he has a US Opel sitting in there. Well, they had that in the Opel GT.
Yeah.
The GT was.
I want to drive a Corvette C3, but even slower.
And smaller.
Yeah, harder to get into.
Yeah. Do you have anything that's far worse than a Miata?
I wouldn't say worse than a C3 in initial build quality.
That's why I said Miata.
Yeah.
It was still GM.
Be fair.
Yeah, it didn't have the crossfire injection though.
Here's a Gab says my Goldie, which I guess is it's an Outback, has an H6 Outback, uses premium California price per gallon, and I don't know what they're on about. It's not a question, but I think thank you for your donation. So I think the Subaru flat sixes of that time needed premium. Yes, you are right. That's why the Tribeca was a complete failure.
Yeah,
because it was a family vehicle that took 93.
Well, that was also 91. Was that when they tried to call it the B9?
Yes, the B9 Tribeca.
Yeah.
I actually liked it because I had the Hawkeye front end.
Yeah,
but it was universally hated.
Yeah,
and I was like, Subaru finally gets like a little feisty, and everyone's like, "You suck."
What's the name of the new one? The
Ascent.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah.
To the Tribeca, like that style.
It was before its time.
I mean, I'm not saying it looks like an evolution. I'm not saying it looks
too
the same.
innovative.
Yeah,
too innovative.
But now they're like selling out of those things. Now people love them. Yeah.
The Ascent's great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a detuned STI block or STI block. And I think the STI turbo, but it's just, it's detuned a little bit. That's the engine they used. And like the guy who's over at Moore Subaru, who likes RCR, says, I can't wait for Cobb to actually figure out how to do this thing. Imagine this thing with 390 horsepower.
Yeah.
But again, the weird thing that it's claiming a tow rating of like 4,000 pounds and something like out of a four banger with a turbo.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like a light downhill grade.
Yeah.
With a gust of wind behind you.
Tailwind.
Yeah.
My buddy.
Don't try to go up a hill though.
My buddy has one in Vegas, and when he was breaking it in, right, he's in the desert and he's trying to break it in, and he was getting horrible mileage on the break-in period, right?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty good now, but even on the highway, he was averaging like 13. Ooh. And I was like, well, you should have bought a 200 series Land Cruiser, because that's what I tried to talk him into, of course, at the start.
And I get 13.
Yeah, and I was like, I get 14 on the highway. Hey, now. And I'm driving 90 miles an hour, so
and I'm pulling 5,500 pounds.
Right? Yeah. What are you doing?
Boris,
and I can tow your car and your brother's car.
Yeah.
Up a mountain.
Yeah.
Boris again. Thank you, Boris. Boris says, my dad had a 2001 Plymouth Neon. That is the second year of the second generation. That he got to over 500,000 miles.
What? And the body was still intact?
How many engines? How many transmissions?
Yeah.
It was retired after
a cluster
kid,
mileage.
What did it in was he got into an accident. A kid ran a red light. Dad was okay, but it was totaled. I just wanted to share my story. So many memories in that car.
Oh, that is devotion to get that car. Because there is no payoff to that. Other than love, there is no reason to invest that much maintenance.
That is a single cam. Yeah, single cam, non-variable valve. Well, I guess the engine was technically a little bit simpler than the double cam that was in the first gen, or optional double cam that you got in the first gen Neon. The only double cam you could get in the second gen Neon was the Mitsubishi one, the one with the Mitsubishi turbo. Yeah.
I mean, the ending days.
A part of that, I guess, to be fair to the Neon, I was never a big Neon fan. You like them, okay, right?
Like, it was my first car.
Yeah, but like I was never a big fan. But to be fair to them, they were also American throwaway cars.
Oh yeah.
Where by like 5 years in, it was like, this has no value. I'm just going to sell it to a 17-year-old, and inevitably the market went, 17-year-olds, I'm going to take the hood off, and I'm going to take the exhaust off, and I'm going to just beat the all living hell out of this car and make it fun.
Yeah.
So like, it's not surprising that so many of them went that way. But I was amazed.
I think they were like 12 grand, like new.
Yeah. My first car was my dad's hand-me-down 1993 beige on beige, manual steer, manual windows, manual shift, Saturn SL1.
Nice.
That had the black unpainted bumpers.
Hell yeah.
We don't do that capitalist pig dog painted bumper twin cam stuff. Yeah. But that thing was a 1.9 single overhead cam, and it died because my stepbrother eventually, 20 years later, put it into a on-ramp curb and just like wrecked the front suspension. But it was already at like 280K.
Yeah.
I mean, like those. Yeah. It was a rubbish car, but like it would not die.
No. What happens when
a manual steer front engine car?
Yeah.
It was like you didn't even have to go to the gym. It
Yeah.
was like, I'm just gonna go get some milk. I'll be back. Whoa, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Oh, it was like 9 extra turns. It was a detour.
No, but those were like, that was when
The plastic panels.
Yeah,
So
GM
they didn't bend, they shattered.
GM tried to like they literally they cheated on Honda. They were like, look, Honda was filling out the test, and GM was like looking over and like trying to like and, but they were I remember my buddy's
I don't get it, but I'll do it.
My buddy's mom had one, and all she wanted was the cheapest car she could buy with air conditioning. Whatever that is, that's what I want, and that was
that's always American. That's always American.
Oh yeah,
Because one thing we can do is air conditioner.
Yes. We will find a way.
It's such a weird like Pennsylvania thing. People, we were having this conversation before. People who will buy a new base model car
Instead of an interesting older car, even lightly older.
Yeah.
I'm excited about them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
I have a new.
That means nothing can break or is not allowed to, and it costs me
It's
money.
going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Here's my brand new Chevy Blazer.
Here's my Hyundai Santa Fe.
Yeah.
what I like to do when I buy a car is take all the money out of my wallet and light it on fire. And then step on it for a little while. And then I'm like, yeah.
One shot.
Uh-huh.
Drive around and show my friends.
It's Maddo with the generous donation. Thank you. Saying post-restriction travel money. And yes, you are right. Australia gets priority over everybody else. When RCR can go internationally, it is Australia. But I know
who
like
got the Caldina. They were New Zealand and Australia, the only places outside Japan that got the Caldina.
Did they?
Ooh.
Oh,
So
so
there
we
are
got
plenty of them there.
Oh, so yep. Then I gotta go. I gotta find one. I have a question for Roman. Well, he's not here, so I'll do my best to answer it.
I'm the apparently the stand-in Roman for most of these people.
Will he do an RCR story on the history of Holden while down under? I mean, the history of Holden has been done a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess as Americans, we could give our story, but we never lived it. We never felt Holden. We got a few Holden cars, the G8.
Right at the end of Pontiac, we got the
We
last breaths, but they were that was like a 10-year-old Commodore.
Yeah.
You know.
So
it's like hand-me-downs from your uncle.
If you do it though, you need to do it as though this is the only authentic story of Holden, just to see what happens.
Oh yeah. Conviction.
Yeah.
I am the expert.
Let me tell you.
I do want to drive like the old turbo Commodores from like the 80s that they showed me some videos when I was in New Zealand of like car culture back then. And they were doing the thing where the turbo spins backwards and makes the sound, but unlike an MR2, this is hurting it. So, the fluttering of the Gen 4
fluttering off throttle is just air bouncing around in the intake.
Okay, it's not spinning the turbo backwards.
On throttle flutter is surge. That's what kills turbos. When you have a mismatched compressor and turbine housing, which were a lot of the early turbos that were not properly sized. So you could get that. The Gretty TD06 would get that sometimes.
What's that?
That was a very common turbo to slap on 3S GTEs.
Okay.
From the 90s. You know, the Gretty TD06 and then the T67. That was the big dog. Came with a tubular manifold that would always crack because it wasn't supported by anything. So it just kind of hang there and then hang there and then but yeah, they were not properly matched, the compressor and the turbine size. The compressors were way too big, and the turbine was too tiny. So you'd get on throttle surge. That is bad for a turbo, but no vaguely modern turbo is even capable of doing that. And if you overboost, like if you're making too much boost, you blow the motor before you blow the turbo. So you have bigger problems.
Okay.
You have to overspin a turbo to hurt it, but that's still kind of hard to do because then they just move hot air. It's not like they like spin off their bearings or something.
Okay.
They're already spinning at 120,000 RPM. Yeah. Wow. It's insane.
I didn't know it was that high.
Yeah. And the ball bearing ones probably go up to like 200,000 RPM.
God damn.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just like your 90s, early 2000s turbo was 120,000 RPM was when it's spinning. Nuts, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hold on a second. It's spinning at 50 times as fast as the engine?
Yeah. That is wild
How
to
is
think
that
about.
possible? Yeah, that's crazy.
Forrest,
That's why you never put your finger in there. It's like a food blender.
Forrest asks, I'm listening at work. I just sold my 1993 Geo Metro for for $750.
Well done.
All right.
And I'm currently changing a fuel pump on a 96 F-150. Here's
Ooh,
$5
done that.
from Salt Lake City, Utah. Also, Ranger is God. No, Ranger is good. Or both.
Maybe both.
I like the old Rangers from the 80s, those square ones, so you can fit.
I like
Windsor's
the
into-
commercials for Granger because they just say Granger. You're like, yes,
It's working.
yes.
If it's
That's
working.
a tagline.
Like Sam Elliott talking or something.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. Will Downs says, my Civic died off getting off at the. I will try.
Do you want some of this? This I'm not. I wasn't.
The
I like
stout?
to say this as an insult nowadays. I wouldn't say I was blown away. Life is so good. That's an insult now.
Try one of the Alpine lagers.
Yeah.
See what you
Okay.
think.
Do you want to try
The
that?
stout.
Yeah.
Do you want to try this?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Justin.
Hey.
Will Downs says, my Civic died getting off the
Yeah,
North
whatever.
Bend exit. For
Whatever's in
locals,
there.
it's the one with the roundabout. I don't know where this is. It shifts but doesn't move. It shifts but doesn't move once you are in any gear but park or neutral. Any ideas? So you have an automatic and it's not going anywhere. So I don't know what kind of Civic you have. Do you have a one with a CVT or a traditional automatic with a torque converter?
But he's saying it moves in park, which, I mean, it's already, if it's not moving, obviously this is some pretty significant transmission concern.
Yeah.
But if it moves in park, that means what? I mean, basically everything's shot, right? If you don't have the e-brake on, your parking pause dead too. And
Right. It shifts but doesn't move once you are in a gear. But park or neutral. But I guess park and neutral is operating normally in that it doesn't move. So you just have no forward motion. All right. Best case scenario is that your linkage just maybe a cotter pin or something came off and your linkage is just dangling down there.
Yeah.
In which case, that's just a job for a floor jack, a new cotter pin, and maybe a pin. Or I don't know, get an old screwdriver and just cut off the handle, shove it in there. Great, now your linkage works again.
See what happens. What about your Civic?
I don't know.
Because Honda had some bad automatics in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why Honda has to be stick shift.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my hope is that it's just like some linkage thing that came off, and then that's literally a 3-cent repair. But if you have internal problems with that transmission, whomp whomp, and as Justin was talking about with Japanese transmissions, it's pretty much the engine and the transmission and all comes out of the car.
Yeah.
And at that point, it honestly, with like labor, it may be cheaper just to get a whole new motor, which you may be able to get a lower mileage motor for like, I don't know, $400 or something like that, and just say, hey, change this. And then they look like, okay, we're changing something on a Civic. Fine.
Yeah.
Put in a new engine. Now it's going to be labor because the newer it is, the tighter that engine's going to be in the engine bay because of all the accessories we demand now. Refresh. We may have to get the sign. It's already almost 9 p.m.
Is it?
This, yeah. Oh, 8:45.
Well, you're pretty close.
How many people are on right now?
Let's have a look. Oh, it's kind of a lower day. 78 people are watching right now. We probably can get stats at the end of this. It's, people come, people go. But
should I come or should I go now? That's a good song. Nice job.
We got Proto Zero Star says, okay, here's another Toyota question. How much do AW11 MR2s go for now? Okay, there are there are multiple answers to this question because there's more than one kind. My friend,
all hilarious.
Oh boy. My friend has one that he got for $800.
No, he did not.
He says it runs and drives, but needs some love, which means it needs everything.
Some love. Ran when parked.
Yeah.
I know what I got. No low balls. That's Craigslist ad. I've read it a million times.
It burns some oil.
If it's a Toyota and it's burning oil, it's gone bye-bye.
Yeah.
Unless it's turbocharged, then we consume a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, $800.
An $800
15 years ago, you could buy beaters for that.
Yeah.
There's still those weird barn finds.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're in the right part of the country,
Yeah.
and it's like it's like a grandma or like somebody died and ended up.
I don't know. This
but a
is like
nice-
some Lotus or some European car. I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
That's what that's
They
in the
say
Midwest.
that Lotus helped design the chassis and Yamaha made the engine.
In the Midwest, it's
vaguely.
like Mustang value, Mustang expectation.
Right.
And then it's like most Japanese cars value expectation.
Right.
Like there's
For
this
sure.
weird
It's a different culture.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
I don't know. It was a Honda Civic and it's 12 years old. Yeah, but that's an SI and it's in perfect shape at
that's
12,000 miles.
$15,000 car.
I'm figuring like $6,000.
Yeah.
That's probably about the best we're gonna do.
I don't want to haggle either. Firm. I'm firm on that.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. An AW11.
Okay.
To
You
the
have
Rooks or a Mark One.
you have three different. I'm gonna break it down to three
Yeah.
different versions. You have
Good,
the
yeah.
Mark 1A, you have the Mark 1B,
Mhm.
and then you have the AW11 SC supercharged. If you have a supercharged one, I don't think you could get one for under 15,000.
Not one you'd want
No.
because you literally can't replace any parts in that car.
Oh, really?
No, they weren't around 10 years ago.
Mm.
It's unrepairable as much as a Japanese car can be. That car is.
The supercharged, or are we talking AW11?
It's a supercharged.
Okay.
The AW11, I mean, it's now a matter of degrees, but the supercharged 10 years ago, you couldn't get anything for.
I see.
You know, where you could still get some AW11 stuff. You can still get some AW11 stuff from Japan, but like, you know, the old manufacturer rule that I was told by Toyota, 15 years ago was when they built a new car, they built 10 years of spare parts
Mhm.
to go along with like what they projected the number sold was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, cars that they just kept selling, they obviously made more runs of those parts. Cars like the MR2, where that didn't happen, they never made more runs. So we were 5-6 years ago for the SW20s, we were running out of this new old stock from Japan for regular kinds of parts.
Mm.
The AW11 was 5 years before that.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're buying an AW11, it better be damn near perfect, which is a tall ask for a 35-year-old car now.
Yeah.
But just know that the only parts you can get for that car that don't come from Japan are an oil filter, spark plugs, and maybe brake pads. If you find,
Really?
you find the right place. But yeah, like they're as almost as unmaintainable in America as like that vintage Italian car would be.
Really?
Just because they just didn't make the parts, and there's not enough demand, there's not enough volume for someone to be like, I'll make more of these. Like the guys who bought DeLorean and all their tooling. They didn't even buy the name. The name was valueless. They just bought the tooling in California and they started making new DeLoreans. Well, that's because people that don't know any better and like Back to the Future, which was a great movie, and don't know the DeLorean is a colossal piece of garbage, are willing to pay $90,000 for a new one. So yeah, you can eat, spending a couple $1 million on the tooling,
Right.
Yeah.
but not on a car that even now is only worth a really nice SC. Can go up into the 20s. A really nice non-SC is now a $10,000 to $15,000 car, and you could buy a lot more cars for that kind of money. Being a hardcore Toyota guy who cut my teeth on the AW11s way back in the day, but it's just not a maintainable car in the real world, and certainly not as a daily.
What would you do for stuff like all those crazy coolant lines running from the front to the back when they get cracked? You have to make them.
Yes, they don't exist.
Okay.
They haven't existed for the SW20 for 15 years.
Oh.
No, you buy entire parts cars. We, at the end of when we were building cars, and that's 4 years ago now, like building cars for customers, we would buy entire donor cars just for the AC lines.
Really?
Just for the heater core lines. Now, the heater core lines, you can ultimately just like solder back together, or you can just replace the leaking part with a piece of hose and you clamp it in and you put it back up. But you have to pull the whole freaking tank out. It's like a 8-hour job. But that stuff, there's stuff you can make. And now, like a clutch line, the clutch hard line runs right from the front of the car, from the master, obviously, all the way back to the slave.
Yeah.
That's a like 19 bend single piece.
Holy shit.
Aluminum tubing. Still tubing, actually. And, you know, do you think those survive being removed when people like tear cars apart? No. But you can't buy that part. That line doesn't exist. So you just take a braided. It's just, it would never be worth their time. So you just take a braided steel line.
Okay.
And run it straight back. You end up with a much heavier clutch pedal, which makes the car not as enjoyable to drive. But you could drive it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing you have to do. But when you're talking about DW11s, you're talking about like fundamental problems like your distributor is bad.
Oh, right. Those little things like even the Sarah has, it's sitting on the end.
You need new plug wires.
Some shop has to fab.
They were talking about that, about the Sarah plug, spark plug lines.
You can have something made.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're not a person of means that can do that.
Right.
If you have like a cheap old car.
Right.
If you have an expensive one, okay, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, that's the problem. Like they didn't make enough of them to warrant any further production runs on the parts. The aftermarket isn't obviously going to bother for the exact same reason Toyota didn't bother. There's just no there's no financial case.
So if you buy one, you got to buy two.
That's right.
Basically.
That's right. And that donor still has to be in like pretty good shape. Otherwise, most parts aren't going to be useful. So you really kind of have to buy like two nice cars, one really nice one and one like moderately nice one.
A buddy's dad has a MGB and he has like three.
Yes,
but the two donors are stored outside. And so every time he's like, oh, such and such went, and he goes to grab it, he's like, yeah, that one was bad too. And then he just ends up ordering one online. I'm like, why do you have the two then? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, and those cars, because like they're like classic. You know, like the old Toyotas are now classic by year. But like not by industry.
No.
You know, like you could build a 67 Camaro literally from a parts catalog with no actual car to start with.
Yeah.
You could just order yourself all the parts to build a whole new car.
Yeah.
Because they made millions of them.
Yeah.
You know?
When they're still popular.
Yeah, and they're still huge, and they've been huge for 50 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the interesting Japanese cars never had that scale. And uninteresting Japanese cars had that scale, but they're not around anymore. And no one's restoring an 80 Camry.
Yeah.
You know?
Goddamn.
And Toyota shared a lot of the fundamental basic parts across obviously a lot of their cars back in the day. So like you have any old, Toyota. I don't know if it's as bad with Honda because I'm not as well acquainted with their parts supply. But it's just the market isn't there unless someone was just independently wealthy and an enthusiast and was like, all right, I'll do a run. I'll do a run of like clutch lines. I mean, that I'll sit on for the next 50 years. That's how long it'll take to sell my minimum order of 1,000.
But a part of it too is, I would say, in outside of the sporty, the fun, the cold, the other piece of Japanese cars is like in this climate where we are, they also outlast the rust, right? So you end up with these cars
anything after the 90s.
Like the I mean, a lot of the old trucks, the truck is fine. The engine will start and drive and do whatever you want it to do. It may have parts of it fall off, but it will still do whatever you ask it to do.
And have some extra air conditioning holes.
Yeah. Right. Unlike the big three that were smarter, we're like, let's make sure we don't over-engineer this. So both die at the same time.
Then you buy more cars. And we make more money. Wait, you mean having cars last 30 years isn't good for business?
Right.
So that's one of a hell of an answer, proto something star. Yes. There is no, it is a good answer because
but I'm just saving you lots of time, money, and aggravation.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I think like my MR2 AW11 Mark B. Oh yes, you also preferably want a Mark B AW11 than a Mark 1 because the Mark 1B had that reinforced thingamabob inside the transmission, so it didn't pop out fifth.
Yes, and they also didn't have as much of the oversteer because they didn't have rear sway bars like the Mark 1As did. They had that fancier little urethane body kit. That the A's didn't. yeah, there are a number of little things. Back in the day, I used to know like every single individual thing. So it's all meaningless in the real world. But yeah, no, they're and they made, as with any low production Toyota, the first years when the most of them were made by far. You know, the first year in '85, that was, I forget what it was for the Mark One. They actually made a lot more Mark Ones. I think it was like 90,000 to the U.S. over 5 years.
Oh,
whereas the SW20 was, you know, was a quarter of that. But the first year of the SW20 in '91 was 11,000 cars. Then it was 6. Then it was 3. Then it was 1,600. Then it was 800.
And just think if Toyota even had the balls to do that today.
Yeah.
They wouldn't make that.
No.
They
Well, and legally, you can't make that car anymore. It's a death trap.
Yeah.
Like properly set up, it's amazing. But like
Oh,
from the
dude,
factory on
yeah.
those ridiculous like 4x4, you know, 90s Japanese car springs, and 14-inch 60 profile tires all the way tucked in. Like, nah, even in NA, like most of them ended up on the wrong side of a hedge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was no bueno. I grew up racing them, and I still looped 3 of them on the road.
Whoa.
Now, admittedly, I was being moderately aggressive on an on ramp in the pouring rain at 5:30 in the morning. But let's not get bogged down with who has what kind of
You
driving.
had all-terrain tires.
Yeah.
It should have been fine.
I actually had bald rear tires, which is the reason I actually hit the curb on that car, bent through a tie rod.
Yeah.
And they flew off the road in between 2 of the light posts on the on ramp, the old on ramp from 287 to 80. And I flew off at about 65, but it was wet, so I didn't leave any rubber marks. But I ended up down the embankment, wedged with my rocker panel against a big rock. So the trooper came and he said, how fast were you going? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was merging, so I was probably doing like 60. He's like, based on how far you slid, I feel like it was probably more than that. And I'm like, listen, I mean, I'm not a physicist, but you know, all I know is I'm stuck here on the bottom of
Here's what I remember.
this little gully, and no one was injured. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. But yeah, and then, but back in the day, I always had 2 MR2s. So I had one backup one for whenever one went down.
Yeah.
Not went down like broke, but like because like I needed a replacement part. And even back then, you're not going to O'Reilly. You know, you're ordering it from somewhere on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I put the SW20 down there. I AAA'd it back to the house, drove back with the AAA driver, got my Mark I backup car, which was an 85A,
Yeah.
and then drove that to work and was still early.
Nice.
Wow.
Checkmate.
Well,
So I leave an
played.
hour and a half early. That's ridiculous.
Forrest asks, or reiterates, and thank you for a super chat just to reiterate things. You said 93. Oh, person who was talking about their that they had a 90 not a 1993 Geo Metro. They had a bought it for $93.
A $93 Geo Metro. That's more
impressive.
believable than a 1993 Geo Metro.
I did actually. I sold a car one time for $85. I'm not kidding.
What was it?
It was the one I was joking about earlier. It was an '86 Mazda 626. This car. So to put in perspective, this car, I loved it. Right, it was my first car. It was a family friend who was like a grandmother to me, and they always had like 3 to 4 rusty, still running but sort of on their way out Japanese cars. Right, Nissan. They had remember the Nissan Minivan that wasn't really a minivan. I don't remember what it was called.
Yes.
They had like 4 of those.
Pre the Quest.
Yeah. Like they had like 4 or 5 of those. They
Yeah,
always had. So this was an 86 626. It had been like, it was like the fathers, the sons, the fathers again, the son, and it kept moving around until somebody's like, fine, I'll take it. And so this was this grandmotherly figure who was like literally like they were like my godparents sort of. And I remember going over there and she's like, oh, I haven't given you your birthday present yet. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And she's like, well, you're going to be 15 this year, right? I was like, yeah. And she's like, how would you like a car? And I'm like, well, I only have a learner's permit. She's like, that's okay. Your parents can ride with you. Would you like a car? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, we gave you $25 for a car fund in December, right? How about you give me that $25 and I'll give you that car out there? And I was like, yeah. Like, you know, I'm so stoked. I'm 15 years old, right? These are like incredibly like I could give you some amazing stories about these people. Like my favorite story is another friend of the family got turned around in directions coming to visit my little hometown. This is a little town, northern Indiana, 6,000 people. Nobody lives there. He got turned around and he's trying to stay on these people's couch for the night. And he had delays and this and that. So it was like 1 a.m. This is an older couple. He's like, listen, I don't want to wake you up. I'm so sorry I'm coming late. They're like, that's okay. We're going to leave the front door unlocked for you. Just come in, here's where the guest bedroom is. So this guy gets in town at 1 a.m. and he opens the front door is unlocked and he's like, I don't know where these bedrooms are. The directions don't make sense. He just passes out on the couch. He's like, I'll pass out. I'll get a few hours of sleep. It's 1 a.m. When these people wake up, I'll wake up. I'll figure out where the bedroom is. I got to get some sleep. It's been a long drive. He wakes up in the morning and this is an older couple. And there's like a 10-year-old kid sitting at the dining room table eating a bowl of cereal. It's like 7 a.m. He's like, I don't, did they have a grandson or something? And so the kid's like, oh, hey, morning. You want some cereal? And he's like, sure. So he sits down and he's eating the cereal with this 10-year-old kid. And the kid's like, see, you're a friend of Ken and Viona. And he's like, who? He's like, Ken and Viona. And he's like, I don't know Ken and Viona. He's like, that's my parents. And he's like, oh, okay. I think I'm in the wrong house. And he stands up and the kid goes, oh, sit down, finish your cereal. It's all right. This is what these people were. They were just the most kind, like just benevolent people you could ever meet.
Oh, that's not us.
No, like,
a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, like this kid, like he's just used to, there's a random stranger sleeping on my parents' couch.
It's totally normal.
This must be a friend. This obviously is somebody that I'm cool with having dinner with or breakfast with. Yeah. Like,
nowadays, I'm getting murdered.
Right? Yeah. But like so anyway, those are the people. They gave me the 626 and the whole rear suspension was patched together with like a combination of duct tape and what was not erector set. What was the things where it was a little strip of metal?
Connect.
Yes. It had that. Like literally that was what held the rear suspension up. And so this thing was just, and the clutch was almost gone. And by the time I learned to drive a stick shift, it was gone. There was no clutch. I had like spray painted the rear wheel wells that were just covered in rust. And just like, I was, for me at 15, I was like so excited. Yeah. But yeah, then like my parents were like, okay, this is not going to be your car. We're going to help you find a car that you're going to pay us back for. And you're going to find an actual car. I was like, okay. So I bought a 94 Civic. And I loved that car, which was Civic. Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. And they helped me pay for parts of
manual, I assume.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. It was an EX with the
VTEC. Whoa.
1.6 liter.
2-door or 4-door?
4-door. With the 1.6 liter. I love that little car, though. So rev happy.
Yeah, it's still running.
So I had to.
Somewhere.
No, it literally is. I sold it to a high school teacher of mine, and I contacted him 2 weeks ago because I wanted it back. I was like, well, I will buy this from you. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I gave it away to a woman. And I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, she had some issues in life, and I gave it away. I'm like, is it still on the road, though? He's like, oh, yeah, it runs great. We repainted it. He's like, it's still going. Yeah. So that was why I sold my 626 for $85. It had no clutch.
So you made $60 on it, is what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
You learned how to drive stick, destroyed the clutch, and it was like, thank you for my $60 profit.
Yeah. I told him I was selling it. I was like, I'm sorry I'm doing this to you. And they're like, that's okay. You just had to learn. Like, they were happy.
That's almost unbelievable.
It was growing up in rural Indiana, man. It was good times.
Jesus. 6,000 people. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Sussex County, but it was a lot more than 6,000 people there.
Not quite that rural.
Not quite that rural. New Jersey, pretty rural for New Jersey.
Yeah.
So how many do we have to get through?
Half dozen, maybe.
Oh,
okay. Joe Rinaldi, that's a Pennsylvania name, says 1990 Probe GT.
Ooh.
Underrated power to protect Mustang? I
Hmm.
don't know what the question means.
Well, the Probe GT was the V6, 3-liter V6 from the Mondeo.
Okay.
Which did make 200 horsepower. And from the front looked a lot like an SW20 MR2.
Mm-hmm.
Like very easily mistaken in profile and like just like the fog's on or something. You're like, no, that's not. That's American. Yeah. Oh, is he saying question mark underrated to protect the Mustang GT question mark?
Oh, they underrated the power to protect it. Well,
I mean, it wasn't underrated that much though. It was rated at 200.
Yeah,
or probably 190 back then.
And
what was the displacement on that V6?
3-liter.
Oh,
but the GT, the Mustang GT,
I was gonna say that
at that point would have been the 5.0 was still there, and that was only 220.
Yeah,
on a good day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know about actual power underrated, but I think the Probe GT was underrated as a car, probably because it was an early '90s Ford attempt at making an import car, and
Yeah.
it probably, based on the fact that I can no longer find any of them,
Yeah.
didn't hold up that well.
They didn't work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when were they going to replace the Mustang with them?
That was the original
Yeah.
thing they
That was
said they might do.
That was the late '80s, though.
How true?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like when Porsche was going to replace the 911 with the 928?
Yeah.
Then everyone's like,
Yeah. But no, but I mean, with Ford, it was like this, like, you can't take away the Mustang. Like,
Yeah.
Oh
there
no,
was
wait,
this-
they
well,
wanted
fortunately,
it-
they were going to do it.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was happening.
Yeah.
And the 911 people were like, with all due respect, I remember I'm saying with all due respect,
Yeah.
I'll freaking murder you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your legacy.
Yeah. 40 years later. Wow. Yeah, that's bringing a flash. There was one in my neighborhood that I grew up in. There was a white one. This girl's mom had it. I wanted to date the girl just because I wanted to drive it. Because it was like the coolest car in the neighborhood. It was like, it was like brand new at that point. I was like 8 years old.
But what a terrible name.
And then the girl, I know, Probe.
Yeah.
Right? A little too Star Trekky, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the girl like 3 doors down, her mom had the Subaru
SVX.
SV.
Yes.
In teal.
They made it in two. Interesting.
Tealish.
Okay.
Yeah,
I remember
the closest Subaru made the teal, not Toyota teal.
Aquamarine.
Yeah,
That their name.
Well, that was
for
the 91 MR2 was Aquamarine Pearl. It's kind of like really forest green with a little bit of blue metallic.
But they were all like, we had my parents had a Nissan Quest, a '94 Nissan Quest, and its color was aquamarine.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just say blue green.
No.
Or aqua.
No, it's
Aquamarine.
fancy. This is
Yeah.
way fancy.
They wanted it named after the company that made the Spitfire fighter.
Yeah.
World War II fighter. Aquamarine.
Boris again
Supermarine, not Aquamarine. But
for the
they're
third
going for
time.
the same idea.
Yeah.
Boris number 3?
Yeah, Boris number 3.
Wow.
He said the Neon snapped a timing belt. Nah. Had transmission repaired. Okay. Idled like shit. And at the end was kept alive through cheap labor and cheaper parts. So that sounds about right.
So you're saying
There is one guy in this town with this a pretty fresh. I saw it parked at the grocery store from time to time.
Yeah.
A red first gen Neon.
Really?
Yeah, 4-door.
Did it have the flower wheels?
Oh,
You remember those?
Yes. Oh, that's a throwback right there.
Yeah.
The flower wheels.
I can't remember.
So
it's not
fancy.
I don't think it's a Highline. I think it's just a regular one. I don't know what the Highline got you. It may have just been an appearance package.
Who remembers the Dodge Intrepid?
Oh,
My
yeah.
uncle had like 2 or 3 of those.
What should we name our front-wheel drive platform
Hmm.
midsize sedan after? How about a World War II aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
Well, and it looked so similar. Like that was the era where Chrysler was like,
It was
if
all
you want to
three,
figure
yeah.
out which one
Yes.
this is related to, they
Dodge,
all look the
Plymouth,
same.
Chrysler. It was all the exact same car.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They changed the badge, the grill, and that was
Nothing.
Yeah, the Dodge Intrepid, the Eagle Vision.
What was
My
it they
parents
called
had an
it?
Eagle Vision.
Oh,
Those were actually kind of cool.
But you remember when they came out, they were very futuristic.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
on, weren't they on?
It was that cab
Dark
forward
Angel?
design or something.
Weren't they on Dark Angel? The Intrepids?
Yeah, the Eagle
With,
Vision. Eagle
um,
Vision, I think, was also a
Fisk
Chrysler
Albert?
Concorde.
Concord. That was the
Right.
Chrysler. Yes. Concorde, the Vision, the Intrepid. Yeah.
The
And then you had
cab forward, the whole design.
It's
The-
a longitudinal 6
Yes.
running to a front wheel drive.
Yes.
So it
which
has
is
like-
amazing.
Yeah.
If you think about that, that actually took some engineering.
But that was the end of the DSM days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, oh man, I remember that. I was like, they're just moving badges and grills around and
Mhm.
changing the name.
Yeah.
I'm 12 and I know
What?
that.
And GM
Yeah.
got super lazy within the 2000s.
Oh
they
my
were
God,
like,
yeah.
they're like, what's the difference between these 3 SUVs? We can put some weird fake slants on the back of one. If that
Yeah.
helps. Yeah, just do that. Just do that. Like,
How many W bodies did they possibly like? J bodies, W bodies, and F bodies.
Mhm.
Of course, F bodies went into the 2000s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
WS6.
Yeah.
Was into the 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
With that
Well
same
into the 2000s. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I had somebody ask me about the most overrated cars, and I think WS6 is one of them. And because it's just it looks cool from the
Yes.
other end of the parking lot, and the
Yeah.
closer you get to those Firebirds, It's just
And don't get inside.
Oh,
For
yeah.
the love of
Oh,
God,
God.
don't get inside.
Because you're getting into a Pontiac Grand Am.
You will get inside and it will squeak just looking at you.
Yeah.
Like it's just every
Yeah.
piece of paneling.
You're like, oh, I'll just change this radio preset.
Or the buttons just fall in on you.
Yeah, it doesn't
Like,
work.
I'll move my electric power seats. Crunch.
oh,
I'll put my window down. Uh-oh.
right? But there's a generation that like
but LS because it has an
Yeah.
LS1.
I remember like high school friends like buying that car and loving it.
Yeah.
And there's still like I remember I worked with a woman who when I bought my C7 was like the Trans Am you just bought. I'm like, they haven't made those in a long time.
The
So no.
Trans Am.
Yeah, that is not what I just bought.
You
But
know
that's-
that company has not existed for a decade,
Yes.
right?
That badge, the triangle, it's not a thing anymore.
This is-
We don't do that.
That's awesome.
But whatever.
Back in her day.
Yeah, that was her thing.
Yeah.
Question from Jonathan Fernandez. Thank you for your donation. Says your thoughts on the second generation Mazda 3. I've never owned one, but I've always thought it would make a fun, attainable hot hatch to daily. Okay, so Mazda 3, excuse me, they said
Speed.
Mazda Speed 3.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Mazda 3 is not a hot hatch. Mazda Speed 3 is a hot hatch.
All right,
That's a Fomoco car.
yeah. So, would you
I've driven a
rather
couple.
have the
Are they
Mazda
cool?
Speed 3 or the Ford Fiesta? It's a Ford Fiesta,
Well,
Yes.
or the Fiesta is a Mazda 3.
no. Well, the second gen. He's talking about the Gen 1 Mazda Speed 3, which would have had a Focus ST in Europe equivalent,
Oh,
not in America. There was no hot Ford at that point. We didn't get even the Fiesta ST until
16, 17?
late.
Oh, okay.
And then the Focus, like the Focus STs came over. And
I have
RSs.
to educate
Yeah,
myself.
the Gen 1 Mazda Speed 3s, I always liked. I actually recently was looking for one, and I messaged all of the guys that I could find that looked even vaguely decent. Yeah, that's the second gen one right there.
So this guy did this
the
guy
first gen
say,
actually I think is better looking. It's a little bit more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
okay.
But finding them
Were they
because-
turbo or were they NA?
Oh yeah, 2.3
Yeah.
liter. It's the Ford and the Volvo 2.3 liter inline four turbo. They made 263 horsepower from the factory, stock
Okay.
boost,
Really?
and they had to be boost limited in first and second gear because they're front wheel drive, and they would just wheel spin until you got the third. So they were actually boost limited. They actually had like active boost control.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty cool cars. I've driven a stock one and a modified one. The modified one was pretty impressive. It was making like 300 wheel. And with that 2.3, like, because for a little Japanese car, the 2 liter is your standard size. 2.3 is like a stroker motor.
Mhm.
You're like a 454, you know. Yeah, they freaking scoot. But finding ones, every one I looked at was that, yeah, it's the Gen 2.
Yeah.
Is
I
the
don't like that
Gen
nearly as much.
is the Gen 2 is by that time is that the Ford?
No, it was Fomoco from day one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Fomoco for Mazda was late 90s into the
But they don't own a majority
2000s.
share.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
But back then they did.
Did they?
Yeah, because every single part on a Mazda of that vintage says right on it, Fomoco.
But they were much better quality than the Fords coming out
Well,
of that
yeah, because
era.
most of them were European market
Yeah,
Fomoco.
yeah.
Remember,
They
European
were-
market
yeah,
Ford
you're right.
was good. Like,
Yeah.
that's a byword for
Yeah.
reliability. in
Yeah.
England.
UK, yeah.
In
yeah.
America, we get like all that hand-me-down garbage.
Yeah.
Or just the like built for the American idiot.
Yeah.
Ah.
It's like the Green Day
mass-produced-
song.
Mass-produced
I don't want to be an American
shitbox,
idiot.
Yeah.
And that was the American, car design philosophy.
I loved the first gen because they were such a good sleeper.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
They look just like a regular one.
Mhm.
The hatch makes them look massively better than the sedan did.
Mm,
They actually drive really nice, a really good chassis.
really?
And yeah, I mean, they make good power, but I couldn't find a single one without rust because it was an early 2000s American car.
Mhm.
Mm.
And American cars in the early 2000s, even up until present, as far as I'm aware, do what after 5 years?
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, sheet metal.
Sometimes, yeah, right out the door.
Meanwhile, the 30-year-old Toyota, still solid.
Nice.
Yeah, still rusty. Some of them.
That's the problem.
But
Like
they can be solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you'll find more rust-free SW20 MR2s than you will Mazda Speed 3s.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
15 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And, like,
doubt.
easier to find.
Mm.
Now, the MR2 is more expensive.
Yeah.
But no, the Mazda Speed 3, sweet car. If you could find a nice one, that doesn't rot it out. I would buy one.
Yeah.
It was like really underrated because that was when the Mark V GTI came back out, and that was the first like back to basics, back to the old heritage GTI, because the Mark IV was just like a fat piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And so the Mark V came out like I think literally the same year. I think they were both 03. And the Mark V got so much fanfare, the Mazda Speed kind of like fell by the wayside. Same thing when the Mazda Speed 6 came out. Same time the Evo 8 came here.
Really? Okay.
I mean, what we can
But the Speed 6 was cool.
It was great. My buddy bought one brand new back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, when he got his job as a cop. He was like,
were they all-wheel drive?
Yep.
Okay.
All-wheel drive. So the same motor. They made an extra 13 horsepower, 276. So same as an Evo. And much more comfortable to drive, like much softer sprung, but like 6-speed manual, like it was a sweet car, but try to find one of them.
Yeah.
But underrated for sure.
I had a buddy who had the
good drivetrain. Like there's nothing wrong with those motors.
He had the early 90s Protege. Remember
when they did the Protege S also?
Yeah.
And then the Protege Speed, they did one with the wing, little body kit, but no turbo.
No, this was the basic. This was like Steely's
and
Steely's Protege. And then he had a Speed 3. And now the last time I talked to him, shout out to Grant Everly. He was driving a Crown Vic. He was driving a Panther.
I had one of those.
He just about faced.
A former cop car or a civilian?
No, civilian. It was like a 94 maybe.
Whoa, that's an early
Panther. Deep tracks.
I had an 04 Police Interceptor car.
Those are cool.
In dark, horrible rattle can gray that they actually painted them when they were cop cars.
Yeah.
Because all the Crown Vics came white. And then whatever they needed them to be, they just sent them to like cheap body shops and just basically like Mako them. And so like you open up all like the lids and stuff, like the color, it's all just white.
Yeah. Which is why they had those weird graphics packages and stuff.
Like comical government efficiency. But that car, the best thing about that car, I mean, like the seats were awful. But like just like rubber floor. The Police Interceptors had no carpet.
Yeah.
It was vinyl seats, rubber floor, so you could hose blood out. And you couldn't open the rear doors from the inside, so you had to let people out. The back. But that car, it was probably like 8 years ago when I had it. That was when they were still on the road as cop cars. Yeah. And you could drive in the fast lane at 90 miles an hour on Route 80, and everyone would just see your headlights and just you go blowing by another cop. They just like don't even look at you. My one buddy who I used to race with all the time, I let him drive it one time, and he had like a brand new Beamer 750. Like tuned and everything. It was like 600 horsepower. But that thing, he was like drunk with power because no one moves out of the way if you're in a Beamer. They're just like, look at this asshole in my butt. No, they see Crown Vic headlights coming up. Right. Your brain just goes blinker over, blinker over. You can just go whoop that fast lane. I believe it. He was like, we got back from New York City one time in like 30 minutes. What? It should have been like an hour. I was like, what? Bro, I don't think we could do 100 all the way down Route 80. He's like, we're fine. We're fine.
Those are the days, though, too. Like, I remember making it to Chicago from my hometown, which is like a 3.5 hour trip. And I made it in like 2 hours and 15 minutes because it was like a Tuesday at 9 a.m. and I didn't know any better in a Honda Civic. And we were just like 90 miles an hour. And I remember getting to Chicago and parking somewhere and being like, oh, well, you got to find such and such. And I had like a cell phone. This is like early cell phones. So I called my dad and I was like, hey, how do we get from blank to blank? And he was like, you're there already? I was like, no, I just mean like when we get there, I was just trying to.
I stopped to get gas. I was just making sure.
Just trying to cover, because you just think, you were like 17 years old. You're like, everybody drives 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, what do you mean that's not the speed limit?
Yeah. I never told my parents, and unless they're watching, maybe they're not. One time I made it from Kutztown back here in 30 minutes on 78.
Yeah, that's a haul.
Yeah.
Was it late?
Yeah. Yeah,
when there's like nobody but 18-wheelers on there.
Yeah, it was a late. Nope, that was 2 p.m. because I had to get back. I had to get home. I didn't save really any time. Like I had to be back at Kutztown to go to my work at the Burger Pit on campus.
The Burger Pit.
It was more. It's called Sky Ranch Grill. It changed names. Like
I like the Burger Pit better.
That's way better. Yeah. That's a great name.
It was downstairs in the dining hall, and this place. Like I hate it that they created fake brands on campus. Mm-hmm. Now nowadays at Kutztown they do have a Starbucks and there is a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So
back then.
But back then it's like we have to make like this look like it's a real business.
I remember
but
those.
But it's
Yeah.
all like wood or
Yeah.
Sudoku dining like
Yeah.
food services.
Yeah.
And it was called Sky Ranch Grill.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Some
from the big
Phoenix Pizza.
Yeah.
Phoenix Pizza.
That sounds a little bit Star Wars-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had like a Montana theme. So Big Sky Country, for the
Okay.
Big Sky Burger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. And the pizza place on the other side of the dining hall was like Pete's Original Pizza. And I'm like, this is like not even actually Joe Corby Pizza, like fundraising pizza. Actually, it's pretty dope pizza. But we just called it Greasy Pizza because that's what it was. Anyway, I had to make it back for my shift at like 5 to 11 p.m. So at 2, I had to go home because it was cheaper in gas to go home and do your laundry than it was to feed the machine down at the bottom for a dryer that never dried your clothes all the way.
Yeah.
So
you had to fight people off for 3 rounds in the dryer.
Oh, that sucked. And of course, you're dumping like $1.75 into the thing.
Yeah. Then everybody just throws all your shit out on the floor so they can do theirs anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm there in my Neon, and I kept it at 100 for a while, but this was before anything where you just had to like guess where the police were going to be.
Yeah.
But I must have averaged like 80 because I'm like it's just Kutztown exit, and there is Lenhart's. Slow down for Lenhartsville exit because that's where they hide at the bottom of the hill. Then you nail it right to Hamburg. But I didn't get off at Hamburg. I had kept the hammer down all the way to
895.
183.
Okay.
Which is, I forget which exit that is.
Yeah.
But it's where the sheepskin shop is. And then again, 100 miles an hour up over the up over the crest, and then down through Summit Station, and then back home that way, up past that one restaurant that old people like. Yeah, that's the way I went back because I wouldn't then have to stop stoplights going through Hamburg, Skokelhaven, and then back home.
Oh, it's definitely a quicker way to where you're going. Yeah.
Can we just go back briefly to Sheepskin Station? Was the name of the place?
Oh yeah, there's this gas station.
That seems like that could have been a made-up restaurant brand in the college promenade.
Yeah.
Sheepskin Station. I feel like they'd sell condoms.
Do you know what?
Do you know what? Not lambskin.
Sheepskin for that extra wool abrasion.
And it's back to Sam Elliott. We're 6 degrees of Sam Elliott because he's obviously on the picture. Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about there on 78 with it's called the Pat Garrett.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's right by the Miniatures Village.
The what?
The Miniatures Village.
Yeah,
There's
yes.
The Pennsylvania Miniatures. Right by it.
That place is for sale now.
Is it?
It's going to go bankrupt because
shocking that didn't make it economically.
I kind of want to buy it though. I mean, let's face it, because like I remember looking at reviews because I wanted to go there like sort of ironically, but also
have you never been in there?
No, I want to see it so bad.
It's so corny, but it comes full circle.
All the reviews say like the ceiling leaks and like it's just like somebody went there in the rain and it was like
that place was built like 100 years ago.
Yeah,
and like 3 businesses had ever been in there.
And
none of them touched the roof.
It's a miniatures village. How can you not embrace that? Really?
Every time I would drive past, there was one place in PA Ramley I would drive by that was like a some kind of like railroad showroom or something, like for miniatures, like G scale, H scale, stuff like that. My grandfather loves that stuff. But it was a whole building for it, and I forget what it was called. It was something comically, 80s. And I was like, how is it possible they're still in business?
Everybody's grandpa
who's paying to go right? It's always
everybody's grandpa.
Yeah, it's none of the kids.
No,
it's the guys that were kids when that stuff was cool.
Yeah.
And they literally just either never left it or they came back to it.
My grandpa had a model train set. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I wanted it. Something fierce. And I don't know whatever happened.
Do you know, like nowadays, like those Lionel sets that were literally like thrown away, like
garage sale,
like those are like thousands of dollars now. Because just like an old car in really nice shape, if it's in beautiful shape, like what are the odds that a child's toy, a young child's toy, survived their childhood in one piece, B, in nice shape, and 3, complete, 50 years later.
Yeah.
Like you're playing with some pretty poor statistics there.
But it's also like one of those, like my grandpa, he was a physician and he had a heart attack, and that was his like, I am stuck at home and I've got nothing else to do. And he was like, well, here's what we're doing. And he had like a mail order catalog and he just bought like, God knows how much money worth of like just different like model train parts. And he built this. It was probably 2.5 times the size of this table.
Okay.
Of just like all sorts of model train parts. It had mountains and it had all sorts. It was just amazingly just immaculate and like intricate of all the detail. That was like his thing for like 6 months, and he was like, then he put it in the attic. I was like, all right, time to go back to work, and he worked till he was in his like late 70s. He just like that was what he wanted to do.
And he just sat there.
Yeah.
My favorite catalog from back in the day, U.S. Cavalry.
What is that?
U.S. Cavalry was kind of like military surplus.
Okay.
You could buy night vision goggles.
Is this like Greg
Bulletproof
Owen's
vests.
Sportsman Guide?
I mean, this was we're talking mid 90s.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't still exist, but mid 90s to the mid 2000s.
Could you buy like crossbow pistols
Yes.
and
Yes. Bows, strange security measures for outside. We won't get into which states they were legal in.
Right.
Like K-bar, Marine K-bar knives.
Yes.
Yeah, like
magazine pouches.
a knife that like could decipher Russian and sleep with your sister. Like just a multi-purpose.
So necessities.
The bare necessities.
Yeah.
Like
Everyday life.
true prairie living.
Right.
Oh yeah, I freaking loved US Cavalry. But I was like, hold on a second, you can buy night vision goggles, and they're from Russia. In the mid 90s, like we had just won.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
That is pretty sweet.
Oh man, it was the best. I never got them.
I wonder if they were really from Russia.
But every time, no, of course not.
Yeah.
So they're just playing on stupid children. But I mean, they were expensive. Let's say not when they were cheap. Like they were real night vision goggles. But like at that point, they could have been Russian surplus. That in the in 91, 92, when the wall came down, or after the wall came down, you were going over there. There was like some great stories on Netflix. They did. It's called the Operation Odessa, and it was about these drug dealers that were buying stuff for the Medellin cartel to transport their drugs without getting caught by like on boats and planes and stuff. So they're buying helicopters, and one of them goes over to Russia. This is like 3 months after the Soviet Union effectively like just completely disintegrated. And he was trying to rent a helicopter to go to the place where he was meeting with the Russian general, to buy a bunch of helicopters. And they were like, no, you can't. No, it's too expensive. I don't even know what the number would be. I mean, I don't do a Russian accent, but I love Russian accents. But I wouldn't insult them by doing their accent. And he's like, no, come on, like just tell me, like me and my buddies need to go. We need like 3 helicopters, or we need a helicopter to rent. So I came with like 2 other buddies. And they're like, all right, I'll go ask my supervisor. They come back, they're like, it's gonna be $150. And he's like, excuse me? This is, like in America, even still, that was like not that much more,
right?
Not that much more than it is now.
And
She's like, he's like, per hour? And she's like, no, for the day. And he's like, oh, we'll take 3 then. And they fly in flying V formation to meet this Russian general, buy like 15 helicopters.
Right.
For like, these were at the time, like would have been, several $1 million helicopters. They're buying them for like $150,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Shipping them all back. And they try to do a deal to buy an old Russian submarine.
Oh, I think I know the story you're talking about now.
And it ended up like they took the money of $15 million from the cartel. They were supposed to buy it, and then they end up, one of the guys like steals it. But it's a great Netflix show, Operation Odessa. But that's what it was like. It was the Wild West for like a year, probably. I mean, I don't actually know, but it was probably longer than that. But for that first year, like it was literally the Wild West. It was like American the Industrial Revolution. Like when Vanderbilt was just like, I want that railroad. I'm just going to shoot that guy in the face and take his railroad company. Yeah. Like that's what it was. And all these generals like don't have a job anymore. So they're like, sure, because they couldn't afford to fly them. They didn't have any fuel.
Really?
Like they were the Soviet Union was completely bankrupt by the Cold War.
Well, it was almost like martial law at that point. It was like just complete anarchy.
Yeah, it was. It was like the military was basically like that's when the KGB really took over,
killing people randomly.
Yeah, but it was insane. Like I was like, hold on a second.
No, I love that stuff when that like I went to Medellin, Colombia a couple of years ago, and I love that stuff. Yeah, for a buddy's wedding, it was awesome.
Did you watch the public?
You went to Colombia?
Yeah, Medellin.
Did you watch Narco?
Yeah, we watched it. Yeah, no, that's like the dark, but like it's nothing like that now.
No,
no, that's like the
I mean,
dark
obviously
history
that
that they
is
want.
80s,
Yeah, they like
yeah.
hate that history. Like
Yeah.
literally, that's the biggest thing that people hate Medellin is like you come there, you're like
Right.
Pablo Escobar, and they're like,
Right.
stay away from me,
Kill
Just
you.
like we,
but
hate
we're
that.
nice now.
No, but it's like it's a beautiful city. I felt very safe. Like
Really?
legitimately, I told my dad, I was like, I am much more afraid of flying through Fort Lauderdale, Florida, than I am of being here in Medellin. Like it's way cooler out here. But it was like food prices, hotel prices, a lot of that was cheap enough, but not that dissimilar to this country.
Right, because
But
they know
like
who's buying them.
Ubers and stuff like that, like the day-to-day kind of stuff. I remember like getting Uber rides that were like 15 minutes long, and it was like $2.43 has been charged to your Discover. And I was like, this is great. Like just
We're going to the Capitol.
Yeah.
Where is it? I have no idea.
just drive me around in a circle for a couple hours. I just want to see the
Let's
place.
just do loops.
Yeah, like,
Let's
it
do
was
loops.
awesome. No, it was that's an amazing city. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
interesting.
like, I mean, I'm not saying it's like Disneyland, but like there's like cops on intersections stuff. But like we were in the wealthier areas where he lived, like the kind of like
Yeah.
outskirts, and no, I mean it was
They said at
safe
his
and
peak,
beautiful
he
and-
was like one of the top 50 richest men in the world. The problem was like he couldn't really do anything with his money. Like they were
Yeah.
like burying it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the rats would eat it if you stored it.
Yeah.
So you had to bury it underground.
It's
Damn.
tough because when you come to like Capital One, they're like, we don't really, no, thank you.
Yeah.
We're not interested in dealing with you.
Here's the thing.
Sorry.
We're gonna need a paper trail. for
Credit
this.
Suisse actually doesn't have any interest in this account. That's the problem.
It's crazy.
Uh,
how do we do?
oh, the sign fell down, so more people donated.
You beautiful people. Oh, that is
Tibby Tucker something or other, with yen,
what?
says, thank you for rekindling my passion. You don't have to be from the country to donate this dollar amount. You can just pick whatever. So people like to be cute sometimes, but
Well, yen's
doesn't
kinda
mean that
adorable.
they're not from Japan. Thank you for rekindling my passion for cars. I got my Japanese license recently, and your
there you go.
ABC key car reviews are the reason I bought an S660
Ah!
Alpha 6MT just yesterday. Looking forward to an RCR Japan trip.
Wow.
Originally, we were supposed to go in 2022. Who knows when Americans will be allowed in other countries? And but I'd like to go. We'd need fixers, of course, because
Mhm.
I don't speak the language. But as we reiterated, Australia gets priority. But that'd be wild for me. Nick doesn't
Well,
like to
once
be
you're in
gone too long.
Australia,
You're kind of.
I mean, there's a reason that Caldina went there also.
Yeah,
You're just a hop away.
Go to
It's a short trip.
Sydney.
If you're
and
in
just-
World War II, it's just a couple,
yeah,
couple boat trips.
flight, yeah.
Now we're in a different category.
Now we're never gotta go. And we're canceled.
So yes, and thank you for your donation. I hope
And
to
thank
get to
you
Japan
For
eventually.
buying God's transmission. You forgot to say that part.
God's transmission,
Mhm.
a Honda transmission.
No, the manual.
Oh yes,
6MT.
It's
yeah.
amazing they still offer one.
EMT 3440. I just got a 1992 Chevy Corsica.
Oh,
For-
the Enterprise rent-a-car of the 90s.
And fleet vehicle.
I rented a white
Everything.
on blue interior one. Well, I didn't. My dad did. Back in 1992. Please tell me more.
$700. It is a cheap copy of the Civic with worse gas mileage, and the steering wheel is offset. Yes, just like the Lumina.
Yes.
The GM stick, it's on
Yes.
an angle because they were too lazy to put another linkage in there.
But does it have all the buttons? All
I
the
don't know.
giant comical plastic buttons
I
around
don't
the
know.
steering wheel. That's what you need.
The Grand Ams had those, I think,
Yeah.
if you had the
Remember
nice
when they had them
Yeah.
across the steering wheel? Just prior to airbags, the
No,
Grand Prix.
I remember I remember
Yes.
seeing them in two clusters, but I know what you're talking about.
Just
Yes.
prior to airbags. They had
Across
them
the center, yes.
literally, it was like,
The
you want
80s, the
buttons?
80s wheels.
We're just going to put
Yeah.
25 buttons
Yeah.
on the steering
Don't
wheel.
worry if your hand can or cannot reach them and doesn't know where the horn is anymore.
It had like bass and
We're putting
treble
everything
adjustments
in. Yeah.
on the steering wheel.
Hell
Just
yes.
why not? We're doing it.
Yeah, 92 Corsica.
That's
Wow.
sweet. That's cool.
Kicking it old school.
RCI
Any of them are still
3044, and thank you for the nice donation. I never knew what a Kia Stinger was before you did a review. So I just bought a 2020. Oh, they're still making those things?
Yes.
I bought a 2021 Stinger GT2 last week, and I love it. Thanks for the influence.
Wow.
And the influ. What you have is a fantastically comfortable and nicely fast car that no one looks at.
Yes.
It's. I don't want to compare it to an M5, but I kind of put it price point in kind of that area.
Yeah, you're down 250 horsepower. But,
yeah.
But I've heard the raw handling, that feeling you get.
Well, one of the they did it. James May raced it on the. I think it was on right before Top Gear ended. He raced. He went up the hill and he raced a bunch of high speed skateboarders down the hill.
Yeah.
And he loved it.
Yeah.
He's like, it's got exactly the right amount of power for a fast saloon. That's what an M3 used to be. Many moons ago. But yeah, I mean, but cool looking. They make them in like weird, like kind of interesting colors.
Yeah.
Like they're going the concrete grays and. I mean
that's kind of like what's the.
They don't make them in manual though, right?
I don't believe so.
No, I think they do, but only with the 2.0, not with the fast
twin turbo.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, not with the twin turbo.
What's the Hyundai in that's the 3-door?
Veloster.
Yeah,
Veloster.
Where they had like the part that turns me off about those. You remember when they came out and they had all of the weird like active misogyny ads? Do you remember those? Where
no, I don't.
It was one dude getting out of the driver's side, and then it was two women getting out of the front and rear doors on the passenger side, and being like, "Sometimes 3 is the right number." And it was like, "This is so creepy."
Yeah, because that was that vintage of the 3-door hatchback.
Yeah.
Which like the RX-8, that wasn't a hatchback technically. It was all that vintage, and then they did the Veloster Turbo.
Mm-hmm. But the N, I've heard a lot of people talk about the N as like a fun.
It's tiny.
It's like
you ever
an
come up behind
SI.
them? It looks like their wheels are like just slightly the wrong width.
Yeah.
Like they're dead flush the fenders, like a German wheel fitment width-wise. But then you're like,
just doesn't work.
I feel like they're wide enough. But then you're like, it's front wheel drive. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard like people talk about them sort of like the mid 2000 Civic Si, where it was like this like raw, fun.
I mean, it's tiny.
I'm a little lapdog, and I just want to do what you want me to do.
Yeah.
The Italians mastered this. That was called
the
500 a bar.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now that car will disintegrate in your hands.
Oh yeah.
The Hyundai won't, because they were like, "Oh, I see what you did there, Japan. Okay, we're just gonna do that a little bit cheaper."
Yeah.
We'll find a way.
Don't worry about it. Congrats on the Stinger.
Yeah,
that's a cool car. I'd buy one of them.
Joe Rinaldi Music, again, just for a clarification, thank you for the donation, says it probably, and this is going all the way back to the Mazda 3, saying probably had a 2.2 Mazda engine. Oh, wait, maybe they're talking about the Probe 2.2 Mazda engine, 145 horsepower, 109 pound-feet of torque. Well, unless
that would have been the 4-cylinder. Yeah, but not the GT. The GT was a 3.0 V6.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
they did
the Mazda, and also based on the Mazda Lantis engine.
Yeah.
From Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. I had the fortune enough to drive when I was down there, which is the same block with a shorter stroke, making it a 2.4 liter V6 that revs to 8.1, I think, or something crazy like that.
That's a screamer.
Yeah, it was hilariously fun to drive. And the one I drove that belonged to Andrew Lamb from Automation, they had it caged and everything like that. So all you did was stay above 6 all the time. It was great. It was loud. And
if it was caged, I imagine it was also gutted.
Oh yeah, there was nothing.
So loud. Yeah.
Very legal, very cool. Wouldn't be a podcast without you. Said just finished driving cross country with a friend from Seattle to Philadelphia.
Jesus.
In my sister's 2005 Corolla.
Easy trip.
Easy on the car. I don't know about the people inside. And had a final road meal at the Dutch Kitchen in Frackville. Yep. Not good pancakes. Any stories from that spot? I remember I took my friends from New Zealand there on our way because they never saw Centralia before. So we took them up there. Now, of course, it's plowed over. Can't go on the highway anymore. So it's cool for that they got to see it before it was ended. I mean, the Dutch Kitchen is diner food. That's what you're getting. But just a little bit.
I'll just take a bottle of something. You're going.
Bottle?
Yeah, whatever. Unless you don't want to make the trip.
Oh, I'm making the trip.
The Dutch Kitchen, and I remember I ate there once for breakfast at like 7 o'clock in the morning, because this is way before RCR and I think way before grad school part 2. I worked as a lister for the it was a temporary job for the National Children's Study, and NOR. I think I still have my badge somewhere in my parents' house. It was like what my job was to fill in the gaps on local residences, and this was 2000 and might have been 2010, when Google Earth wasn't what it was today. And my job was to go around some of the smaller towns in northern Schuylkill County and just verify that these addresses are actually there.
Ooh,
so
that's a scary mission, though.
Dude, yeah. Cops called on first time. Troopers, the town cops in Frackville just rolled right up with me like, "What the hell are you doing?" Because I'm walking in front of people's houses with a clipboard, looking at it and just writing things down in a gigantic 3-ring binder. So from then on, I would just call Schuylkill Dispatch. I wouldn't, you don't call them. I had the number for Schuylkill Dispatch. I just call the switchboard and just say, "Hi, my name is Brian Ryder. I'm going to be driving a." This is just an information call. I'm working for the National Children's Study. I'm going to be working in Gilbertsville today. I'm just updating maps for Google Earth, and I'd like to give you my description of my vehicle in the case that some old lady just calls this in, that there's a weird guy walking around, and the guy's like sleepily saying, "Okay, yeah, it's a blue Toyota Echo, PA plate, blah, 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 blah. I am 5'9". I wear glasses. I'll be wearing a blue t-shirt." Okay. And then afterwards, I still got some people, saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Hi, my name's Brian. I'm just updating maps for children's study." "Yes, me. You're wasting your money." Like weird, like Schuylkill County comments. Like, "You're just wasting the government's money." Actually, this is a private. And it was pointless to try to, they're just going to vomit words at you, and you go, "Yeah, because that's how they lived their entire life, just throwing up and going to the hosey." Yeah. So anyway,
these people were professional chicken catchers for many years, and now this is their new occupation. I told you that story, right? The guy that interviewed, he was a chicken catcher.
No,
he was literally. So these are northern Schuylkill County. There is a rural, it's a free range chicken farm, but it's literally just a giant expanse of what used to be. It's like reclaimed coal mines.
Okay.
And these people just keep chickens on them because the chickens just go around and eat like weeds.
Yeah.
Like they just eat whatever. And so then when they want like, okay, I want 150 chickens, this dude's job at like 19 years old was to go around and catch chickens. These are free range chickens. They have no idea what a human is. So they run from you. So you have to sneak up behind them and catch this chicken. So we're doing this interview for this job as a warehouse selector. And so we're like, "So tell me about a time that you disagreed with a peer and how you handled it." He's like, I didn't really have any peers. I pretty much just went around the field and caught chickens." "Okay, so tell me about a time that you and your boss disagreed about something you wanted to do." "Wow, that didn't really happen. I just went around and caught chickens." Like every example, this dude's like, "I don't know what you're like." It's all like team building and working together. And he's like, I walked around the field and caught chickens. That was my entire day. I was by myself catching chickens, putting them in the back of a pickup truck. That was it. That was all I did. And I just love it because it's such a great. And the picture.
Did he get hired?
Yeah. Picture that with a Schuylkill County accent. Like that was like, I just loved it. That was his whole day. It was like,
"You are hired."
And he got paid like whatever it was, like $3 a chicken or something. Like that was the increment of money. It was like, how good are you at catching chickens alive without breaking their legs and putting them in the back of this pickup truck? That's your day.
Huh.
It's pretty awesome if you think about it.
Yeah, for someone who doesn't. That's an interesting, this is almost like a Jocko Willink question. Like in terms of like, I don't know if this is decentralized command, but how do you utilize an employee who likes working by themselves? Wish he was here. I don't know how you answer that question. But I suppose give him responsibility. Give him a little bit of responsibility and see how he does.
Yeah. Try him out.
Yeah. I think
based on the first Rocky movie, he would have also made an excellent boxer.
Yeah. Up and down those steps.
Right.
Catching
all those chickens. I mean, like Rocky had a hard time.
We reached.
He beat Apollo.
That's true.
I'm just saying, maybe this guy could have been the world champion.
I don't know if he had the build.
Let's not get bogged down.
I mean, you can get there. You can get there.
Question from the regular chat, and we're going to be wrapping this up soon because we've been going for 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Ooh.
Do you have to get up for work tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow's Saturday.
Tomorrow's Saturday.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Only I get up for work tomorrow, apparently.
Oh wait, I got to film
Everyone
tomorrow.
I know.
Really?
Like, what kind of? Don't you own the company? Yeah, that's why I go to work on Saturday.
I got to film something tomorrow. What am I filming tomorrow?
Oh, let's film a new intro.
We do have to film a new intro after this.
Mhm.
We got time though.
Yeah, we got time.
Yeah.
I'm
The only part is the stop motion. That's going to take a little bit. I'll show you how to do that with the camera.
Oh, right.
Question from the regular chat. His name is just Donuts. Donuts asks, I just finished. Oh, wait. I don't believe you, Donuts. Donut says, I finished my permit test. I'm now rocking a Nissan GTR. I think you're lying.
I don't know.
Either that or you are a drug dealer or your parents are really
There's some rich
irresponsible.
kids.
Yeah.
There's some rich kids.
Yeah.
Donuts is about to write back and show you some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Here's Dogecoin.
I bought ETH 3 years ago.
Ethereum.
But Donuts also had another good comment. Says, yesterday I saw a Toyota Matrix XRS that I saw through different eyes yesterday. That is one of my questions. Now that the 2000s are 20 years ago or coming up to 20 years ago, what
Terrifyingly.
that all the 90s stuff is going crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's already gone crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah.
So
what's
now
next?
what is your buy and hold?
Yeah, it's not the XRS. That's for friggin' sure. It's a Corolla hatchback with one of the most overrated Toyota motors ever, the 2ZZ.
Yeah.
Gutless down low and gutless on top.
Mhm.
I drove it. I'm
VTEC's
like,
poor redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
what
I
is
love me a Toyota, but no, just no. Customers used to pay us, for Toyota people, significant money to put 2ZZ 6-speeds into their Spiders. To replace their 1ZZ 5-speeds.
And what do you
that
get more?
whole
30
dropout.
more horsepower?
You have 50 more horsepower,
Yeah.
briefly. Because so see what happened is the 1ZZ was just a Corolla, just obviously the Corolla because it was an FE again.
Of course.
2ZZ was GE.
Yeah.
And the 2ZZ had VVTi. But the problem was, even with the 6-speed, the power band was exactly like the AP2 S2000,
Okay.
which they actually ruined the S2000 with the AP2. Because they were like, all right, we're going to take from 2 liters to 2.2, but we're going to drop the red line at 1,000 RPM. But VTEC still comes on at 6,500. So we've taken your power band from 2,500 RPM to an impossible to keep maintained 1,500 RPM.
Yeah.
That's the 2ZZ, just with less oomph.
Mm.
But you can actually feel it's the only Toyota VVTi motor I've ever driven. I've driven many of them. You can actually feel the step like a VTEC.
Oh yeah.
It's just less exciting than
Uh-huh.
VTEC. But literally, pick a gear, right? Run it all the way to 8 grand red line, shift super fast, go. And you're off the cam again.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh. It's like it has a heart attack every time you shift.
That's not good.
And that was even on 6-speed. The 5-speed, it was completely hopeless. But no, yeah, that's a hopeless car and motor. But what's something that would work from that vintage?
Like as a keep and hold?
A keep and hold? I mean, the really nice SC300 and SC400s, which were the Mark IV Supra car,
Okay.
without the correct motor, just the NA motor.
Okay.
And the SC400 was with the by that time 2UZ.
What is
You're
your
talking 90s now?
I'm talking late 90s into early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, early 2000s,
Versus-
they hit the SC430. And everything.
Yes,
went
that
to
was
shit.
trash.
Yes, everything.
But the
went-
GS,
Dude, I saw one of
the
those
GS.
driving through Newark.
Oh god, they're awful.
Like
That was-
not in Newark, but the bridge where you pass that bridge and it says Newark. Trenton. I was going to
Okay.
Tony's house in Princeton. Was I going through Newark? No, I wasn't. Newark's way up there.
Yeah, you're
No,
on
no.
Trent.
I was going
Yeah,
through Trenton makes
Yeah.
the world Trenton makes the world takes on that trestle bridge going over.
What do they make?
Oh, like spray painted?
No, it's like
Mhm.
city made. It's like light up letters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
like
like the
a government
embroidery
entity
capital of
did
the
that?
world. Yeah, yeah.
It's like a
This was their
civic
thing at
mark.
the time. Yeah.
Trenton makes
The world takes.
the world takes. That's a good message. I mean, that's quality branding for a town that everyone likes.
Like people? What are you describing?
yeah, like abducts children. I mean, like, what are they taking? Can we elaborate here?
What are you marketing?
But the GS is what I was thinking of. The SC died,
Mm-hmm.
I think in
Late 90s.
Yeah, 97.
Mm-hmm.
The GS went from 98 all the way to 04.
Those were great.
Yeah, that was the last of the 90s Toyotas.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember.
I had one of them. We
family friend.
2JZ Aristo swapped it.
Dude, those were great cars.
It was badass. It wouldn't pass.
You remember that
inspection,
gauge
though.
cluster?
It was OBD2. So.
That super cool gauge. I had a 98 GS 400 that a family friend would let me take to prom every year when I was in high school. And I just remember being like, I am a rock star in this car.
An exhaust on those things? The UZs sound good with an exhaust.
Yeah.
You're like, yes. I still only make 300 horsepower, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was a Haas, though.
It's just like a Mustang GT from basically any vintage before the Coyote.
Yeah.
It only made 300 horsepower. If you put an exhaust on it, you're like, Oomba.
Yeah.
Hot.
It's about how you
with
feel, not the
bitches.
power, right?
And the sound. That's all the noise, right? Like an electric car is way, well, a modern electric car
Yeah.
is way faster. But all you get is,
Yeah.
they need to like layer on some like demon sounds.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah. And give me a
us
stick shift.
And you just, because, I mean, you got the whole, you know, like a Tesla, right? You got the whole like mega tablet.
Yeah.
Just put on there ludicrous speed and then pick your soundtrack.
Yeah.
BMW
Demon,
style.
Coyote,
Yeah.
you know, E39 M5,
Yeah.
355 Ferrari.
Yes.
That is what they're missing.
And give me a stick shift. I want a stick shift in an electric car. I want to find a way.
You don't need a stick shift in electric car.
I know. I want to find a way.
Ooh, but you could have a faux stick shift like the faux sound.
I don't want the CVT faux. I want to.
No, not CVT. You would have a gear selector, right? Just like the sound. But you would just press. You would say 6-speed manual.
I know.
And then you can move it around, but it's like it's like when you played Outrun in the arcades or Daytona USA. You moved it, but nothing was happening. But be like that,
right? No, I'm saying this entirely.
And you have
in
a fake
jest.
clutch pedal.
I'm saying this entirely in jest, but like
I know, I think
the
we can make it
concept
work.
of an electric motor, right, has like you know the concept of a fan, right?
Yeah.
With speeds like that ridiculous. Like I want a way to be able to. I just want that experience again. I don't want it to.
Do you want it to be like an electric drill where you have the two speeds, the high and the low?
No, I want the real deal though.
He wants the incremental.
This is why, according to the electric people, this is why I love ICE engines, right? Like I'm totally for like if you want a Tesla, great, go buy a Tesla. They're cool, they're fast, I get it. But I love a stick shift.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
I think that will come eventually.
I think
it
put like
will
a
come-
transfer case.
Well, because
That's
here's the
what
deal.
I mean. Some
Ultimately,
weird way, make it work.
it'll
You
all
can
be
find a
done
way.
with software.
Mhm.
And then you just have a joystick. Like, I mean, think about all the
Yeah.
computer games we played. But with the tech, like they could do it now and it would work. But eventually, I believe that a company or a hacker or tuner, we'll call them tuners,
Mhm.
because calling them hacker has a negative connotation. They could be, you know, like invading China or something. We don't know.
What about a white hat?
What about a white hat? White,
Huh?
not black hat.
Huh?
Right, white hat. Yeah, there you go. A white hat programmer could make it so that it would feel like that. Because all you would do is just have power interrupts,
Mm-hmm.
which would be the shifts,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just like when you drive a dual clutch car. Like there's no change.
There's bang.
Like when I drove the PDK 997 Turbo S, like it was better in auto than me shifting.
Yeah.
Like it actually shifted faster.
Yeah.
Because the algorithm knows when to shift.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's already like, all right, we're going in now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's like my
and it
neighbor
was
has-
seamless.
My neighbor has an SQ5, and it's like it. You know, you can just go and you get down on it and go.
It doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
But no,
all
I
computers.
believe because our generation will be the last generation to have known
Mhm.
manual internal combustion engine cars.
Without the nanny state, without the control,
Right. Without anything. And ultimately, like, you know, anybody that's 10 years younger than us, like, what are the odds you had a manual car?
yeah,
Because you're not buying one now.
and you killed it.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have weird active rev
Yeah.
matching. It was like you're
Didn't
about to
have
kill
hill
it.
hold.
Or you like
Yeah.
threw it off an on ramp into a rock. I mean,
Yeah.
let's not point fingers.
It just
okay?
it just did the job.
Yeah, but I think that'll happen because it could all be done with software and then some faux hardware.
Well, even on an electric motor, right? Just downrate it in all the prior gears, right?
Mhm.
Just let me shift it.
Right, it basically just be upping the voltage
Yeah.
each gear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I want. Just let me play.
I think that will be done. I think somebody will do that because there are always people with more money than sense.
Yeah.
and there are always when you're talking about software and stuff, like there's no capital outlay.
Mhm.
No.
You just change the program.
Yeah.
Like
Although-
that solid state stuff is
Tesla's doing that on the other side. You saw that tweet recently, right? Where
That's
like,
downloadable content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that somebody bought a used Model S and it didn't come with like fully automated driving. And when they asked, like, I don't understand, the previous owner said they had that. Tesla was like, yeah, you have to buy that. Like,
even though the previous owner had it when it changed hands.
Yeah, when
they're
it changed hands.
retro charging for it.
So I don't know if that's true. That's hyperbole, but like that was the rumor was that this person was basically like some of these features were not unlocked unless you paid them for them direct because the previous owner paid.
Goddamn.
That's a scary proposition.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You know, that's interesting.
But it's true. Like, think about it. I mean, there's other cars right now where like literally all the features are there.
Yes,
They just aren't turned on.
Your brand new Supra 2021 Super Review
I was just gonna say
was exactly on that point.
Yeah,
It's all there, but you have to pay to unlock it. Yeah, because you're not going to make mechanically different stuff anymore.
Mhm.
I mean, BMW stopped doing this 15 years ago.
Mhm.
The 328 and the 330 were the same engine.
Mhm.
They just changed the map on the computer.
Right.
It was not a different. Back in the day, there was a 2.8, a 2.3, a 2.5. There was a 1.8, a 2.3, a 2.5, a 2.8.
You're talking like E30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
E36, E36, E46.
Mhm.
You know, and then obviously the 3.2 was the M's.
Mhm.
But like that, basically for the E92, the E90 vintage, the 2.8 and the 3.0 were both 3.0s.
Mhm.
The 2.8 just had a different tune on it,
Really?
and there is no 2.5 because why as a manufacturer would you not take advantage of the economies of scale we were talking about
Right.
and just make one block,
Right.
Yeah.
and then just change the map? Because ultimately, the person buying a new BMW couldn't give a flying
No.
rat's ass,
No.
or ever be aware or know. And even if
Doesn't know.
they found out, it would be irrelevant.
Right. Well, they
It's
don't
just-
care. They just want the badge.
but then BMW could sell you a performance pack.
Oh, you want the fast
like
one?
BMW,
Yeah.
like Tesla does, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, it's an 85. Oh, you want the 100D? You want the big D, huh?
Yeah.
Do you think they'd go and like give you a wheel and tire package on top of that, or
130 grand?
Yeah, and it would go with the cold weather package. You
Mhm.
get the cold weather package. And
See, Toyota used to do this though in a healthy way, right? Toyota used to like the third gen 4Runner.
Yeah.
If you bought a SR5,
Mhm.
it had cloth seats
Mhm.
and it had, whatever features, right? But it still had this and that. And if you bought the Limited, it had leather and it had the option of seat heaters.
Yes.
But 0102 was the only one that had seat heaters. And what was interesting is the 0102 SR5 had all of the wiring for seat heaters.
Yes.
It just didn't have seat heaters.
Yeah.
So you just swapped the seat and put in the switch and
Mhm.
you had seat heaters.
Yeah.
Because Toyota was like, it's way cheaper to just build all of these things with
That's
this wire sticking out the
with
other
that
side
extra
of the seat.
$5 of wire.
We're just putting it in
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And that was a healthy way. But now with the Supra, that's not a healthy way.
no?
But
Until
it's the way ultimately like everything has been going.
again, until you get the hackers.
That's
who are
right.
like,
Yeah.
I can make your Tesla
which
faster.
which is when, not if.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
Shout
there's
out
no
to Rich
big,
Rebuilds whenever he figures that out.
right?
He
Like
will.
there's no big company that can ever stay ahead of, the like 14 to 25-year-old in his
Yeah.
garage,
Yeah.
basement,
Yeah.
dorm room, what have you, with just too much free time on his hands.
yeah.
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 And a little creativity.
I can figure this out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
many great companies were built this way.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Totally.
But
No.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it was a blue ocean. All right,
Well,
we got everybody?
we got everybody.
All right.
Thank you very much for this very unique. Someone just gave me a super chat just saying the sign fell off. Take my money. I won't stand in your way. Thank you. Well, thank
Here's
you.
to you.
Thank you, Tristan Green, and to thank you to everybody who hanging out with us. Thank you to everybody who donated on Super Chat. We will spend your money very wisely. Thank you to everybody who donates on Patreon. You're helping Regular Car Reviews exist as a much larger channel than it actually is. Thank you to everybody who watches every Monday. Our new store, of course, is up. It is regularcarreview.com. All merch is there. Sign up for a newsletter when we get extra content going. We'll figure out what sort of stuff we're going to give you. And
Mostly more brown.
Well, yeah. It's going to be that. And also, thank you to everybody who bought out all of our supply of the RCR bucket hats. Like, I think I made a tweet and they're all gone, or at least it says on Shopify that they're completely sold out. So I will make a tweet when the bucket hats are in, but everything else is in. I think we still have some of the bags. There's one over there. They're cool. You can get a drawstring bag. And let's see. New video, of course, on Monday. And any closing thoughts?
Buy Toyota.
If you don't want to spend money keeping it running.
Yeah. So
Yoda.
For regular car reviews, I'm Brian.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Justin.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. End stream.